Sound like.
You sound like you're having a little cold. Or, yeah, me too.
All right, let's start it off. Carrie, you want to call the roll?
Sure. Counselor Beazle.
Here.
Counselor Hamlin.
Present.
Counselor Smallwood.
Yes.
Counselor Lee. Counselor Exner. Mayor Pulley.
Here. All right, so a couple things and some late additions to what we're talking about here at the work session. One is, we're going to go through tonight's agenda real quick. We're going to then try to whittle down. Everybody have a chance to review the questions that Jordan sent out for the council candidates. We've got to whittle that down. On the council candidates, 2 have dropped out or weren't able to make it this evening, so subsequently dropped out.
Did you say 2 of them?
2 of them.
Which 2?
Mike Horder.
Yep.
And then
Gary Brewer.
are the 2. Okay. So
Not really,
right. We're then after, that's our first item that we're gonna have to get through. Then we'll go into the ODOT discussions, and then I'm hoping we have enough time to discuss. You know, when we're out there in Salem for City Day, some of these meetings with these legislators, we would technically have quorum. So we're gonna have to kind of figure out who's gonna go to what meeting. If we can't get to that in the work session, I'll just push it into council reports, and we'll just kind of quickly go over it at that time. Okay. So first, tonight, under new business, we're gonna do the city council policy on growth. Basically, we're just going through the policy and removing the line, new growth should pay for itself. Is there any questions or discussions other than what we're gonna be discussing tonight on that?
Yeah, I was actually
Yep.
going to say something about that. So they look like the, sorry, I'm looking at the paper copy of it now. I was thinking of removing the following line. Recommended. The city of Sandy takes a balanced approach towards growth. In general, the city is neutral towards growth. Just take all that out, and the city council encourages new development that helps make specific community goals and strengthen the local economy. So if we're taking out the should pay for itself, do we also want to take out those lines too, or leave them in? It's a question for the group.
Yeah.
I would advocate, just to make it clear, and it doesn't give away anything, it's just that the council encourages new development that meets our specific community goals. Right. That doesn't say one way or the other, but yet I think it can be taken where it's the neutral, which we were trying to necessarily get away from. It doesn't say we are one way or the other, just
we're not neutral though. I think is the key piece.
Yeah.
We're not neutral.
So we want to encourage it,
Mm-hmm.
but having that in there, it makes it sound like it isn't. So.
It is, I mean, just on my opinion, I guess that is true now that you bring that up. I mean, if we're truly going to incentivize certain aspects of growth based on our council goals, well, the thing is though, is it's still a balanced approach. It's just not necessarily neutral, right?
Yeah, I think
I also would like to see us do something, look at other options than just first putting out the dollars on the table. I think there's other issues that we could do, other incentives we can use.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I think it needs to be not the first thing we do, but certainly within our tool bag of things that we provide as we see the need for it. And so if it's, and it's a fairly significant change from what we've done in the past, where we've said no incentives are monetarily used, and so I think that's really important to say that we have other options than just putting money on the table. So I would be looking for a balanced, mixed toolbox full of things, and whatever that statement can be used to have that philosophy. I guess I'd be in favor of that.
Sure.
I'll chime in. I think one of the things that sticks out with this policy is that growth isn't defined. That's why I think we just propose leaving those other lines in there, because if you're talking about growth, you're talking about a whole bunch of different things, and the council conversation at the retreat was more about economic development and business development and growing our commercial sector, as opposed to, you know, talking about residential growth is a different calculation, a different
Right.
conversation.
Right.
So in a way, it is still balanced and neutral, except for you're choosing, I mean, you could write this goal or this policy any way you choose, but, it seems like, you know, it encompasses more than just a conversation about commercial development, economic development, that, here, growth is also talking about population growth, it's talking about, you know, residential development, you know, so I don't know if it, by leaving it as sort of intact as it sort of was stated before, you sort of leave that closed, or you can rewrite it to reflect what your conversation was at the retreat.
That's kind of where I land, actually. Is, go ahead.
I hadn't really thought about the residential side of the world, but I guess if we found something that put us in the mode of saying, well, we want to do some sort of incentive that costs us some money or costs us some sort of time in the residential side, I guess I can't think of anything at the moment that would get me to say, yes, that would we want to do. But I guess if it came up, sure. So I'd be in that boat too.
I can give you an example. It may be hard to think of a couple like that, but we've talked about living above businesses in downtown. You know, that
Mhm.
might be something that we would want to encourage and incentivize, you know, in some way, saying, hey, we want that. Maybe we don't. I'm not saying we do or don't. I'm just giving you an example of something like that.
It's a good economical plan to have multiple sources of income in a building. I guess that's, again, that's in the commercial arena, so not in the residential, but again, if something were to come up, that created good growth, good solid growth, that didn't have to be continually fed all the time, I guess lots of possibilities there.
John?
I was squirming a little bit.
Squirm?
Well, so I mean, I think I'm probably gonna take the conversation a little bit different direction, but I'd say regardless of what we approve for tonight, my question or concern is really around the implementation and what we have historically done versus this change. And if we have any businesses that are in the thick of opening right now that are now seeing like, hey, now you guys are gonna start offering discounts or incentives or fill in the blank. And just kind of thinking through the strategy or plan on that aspect. Not that we necessarily need to do that, but I think just to be cognizant, there may be some people that have asked for this in the past. Some of them may not be developing because there isn't any incentive, and this may actually spur on some growth. But for some that have developed and we said no to in the past, I don't have examples, but just looking through a strategy in that regard.
So guys, so we're kind of getting into a discussion I think we can leave for later tonight. You know, wanted to get a feel for everybody's thoughts on it going in. Lori, I want to give you a quick chance on it before we kind of jump into it. Are you kind of good?
Well,
with where we're at?
no, I didn't have anything.
Okay.
I think what John just said is good and to the point. Yeah, my only thing is, I mean, it's kind of vague. We are talking about all growth. So if we're gonna go down a path of wanting to do incentives for X type of growth, then we need to specify that.
Right.
So that'd be my only addition.
Okay. The next issue is we're going to then have the city council candidate interviews. I was going to say the key word for tonight would be brevity, because we have a lot of candidates and it's going to take a while. But we have two kind of stepping aside, so that does whittle it down for us a little bit. We'll revisit these questions, but they're going to come through. They're going to get are we looking at 2 to 3 minutes each, Jordan?
Per question?
Per question,
Yeah.
and wanting to whittle these down here in a bit, 6 or 7 questions, depending on kind of which ones we choose. And then we'll go to a short discussion, then we'll go to a paper ballot process and kind of see where we end up there.
I have a concern in that
Yeah.
area. Last time we did this, we had 3 different candidates for a job, and I felt pretty uncomfortable expressing my concern with certain individuals.
Mhm.
And I just want to say I told you so, but I told you so.
Yeah.
The one candidate that did get selected that I kept my tongue tied on, we had struggles with, some obvious reasons. I think being able to discuss that in a place where we don't have the candidate sitting there looking at us and I'm talking about how I don't like this person's time frame, or maybe that experiences aren't what I would hope to be and all that sort of thing, which does lead to making decisions. I feel uncomfortable about that. 'Cause it does concern me that I'm gonna be saying, would be saying something uncomfortable to somebody to listen. These are volunteers.
Yeah.
It was a job
Yeah.
application where they're making money, and I would go after them. But-
Yeah.
So I want to just express that concern.
Well, I agree. I think it's a hard balance. I guess, Jordan, I look to you though, I mean, it is a public meeting, correct? I mean, so to a certain extent, there are residents or citizens here and, you know, other than the interview process, kind of allowed back into the room, I mean, right?
Sure, I mean, we can ask them to, you know, to be in respect to the process and other candidates that stay in the room.
Well, I was curious, because I was part of that last interview process,
Yeah.
and we did it on a different night, and it was downstairs, and it was much more like an interview where you had kind of an open forum, and we were in another room and brought in. So I was just curious why we decided, or why there was a decision to make it on council meeting night, or if that's the norm, and maybe that was abnormal.
Mine was on a council meeting night.
Okay.
And I was sworn in and then sat up there. I didn't know if I was going home or like staying for the city council
Gotcha.
meeting that night, so it could have gone either way. And here I am, 5 years later. 5 years and 2 days.
We
Okay.
love you. We love you.
Yeah.
But real quick on that, and then I'll go to you, Jeremy, and please let the record reflect, Councilor Lee has joined us. Welcome. So Jordan, what, isn't there, according to our charter, we had looked at that, and it kind of really specified we needed to do it in this manner. didn't it?
Interviews in a public meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the evaluations, do they need to be in the public meeting? And I'm not trying to get away from it. Just listen to my heart here is that we got volunteers. They want to do a good job. A couple of these people have come to me personally and said, I really like this position. I really want to.
Right.
And I'd love to be able to have them in that area, but I just coming through the past experience where some of us, at least I didn't feel like I could express my concern about the amount of time that person was taking to go off and out of the city and the things that were part of their personal life, which they expressed out in the open to us. And if we ended up with an empty seat, I'm a little, that's my concern.
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say, we haven't always done it that way, so it may have been in the charter, and maybe Scott in the past didn't follow the charter, I don't know, on that, because we did do interviews before for city council
For me.
there, and I was gonna say, Stan was in those interviews, at one time, so that hasn't been the case all the time. And I know we did it down at the other location there, and so it wasn't on camera, because that was a concern as well, as being, the comments you were talking about there being taken out of context, you know, and that thing out there is how people edit things. So, I see what you're saying, Carl, and it can be challenging, but I don't wanna go against the chart, I'm just saying that in the past, we have done it in different ways, so it's not.
But you and I went through that first round. We had 11 people, first round interview upstairs, and then the final 4 came downstairs for public interviews.
Maybe that's how we did it. Yeah.
And so I think, and it may have been a volume piece as well too, because to go through 11 candidates in a council meeting would have been insane. I'm wondering for what I consider like deliberations, which is what you're talking about, could we go into an executive session for deliberations?
I don't believe so.
Because they did a mini executive session when I was, I mean, in past practice doesn't dictate if we're following the charter or not.
Yeah.
But they did an executive session because it kept being tie, and then kicked us out of the room so y'all could chat for a few and say, John, he's got the bigger ears and the bigger nose, so let's go with him. So he's not things in here.
So you heard it anyway, so.
It wouldn't fall under to discuss employment contract or performance of an employee. This is a city councilor, volunteer elected position, in this case, an appointed position, so I'm not sure what.
Remember,
what
past practices don't always dictate best
Yeah,
practices.
But I just think for the
Right.
protection of the
Absolutely.
comments in an executive session to where we don't have it airing out if there's an issue with the candidate.
Just so I know, just so you know, I'm probably gonna be a little bit sensitive to that. If I feel there's another issue like we had previous, I'm not trying to blame the other person, just, it's gonna be hard for me to look them in the eye and say, you know, I really don't think you're gonna be able to be a counselor.
Yeah.
And then have them become that counselor.
Yeah, well, nudge me, I'll do it.
Do we need a code word?
Yeah.
It's a code word, Carl.
Crazy or
You can just change the way you're sitting in your chair.
Yeah.
When I was appointed, we didn't really they didn't really discuss, they just voted.
Right.
And that's what we were talking about, that was kind of a little weird here.
All right,
Okay.
hate to just move along, but gotta move along.
Do we have new questions?
That, we're gonna be talking about that here in a second, yep. So then, onto the consent agenda, we just, we're gonna start getting a little more aggressive with the consent agenda. This does not necessarily reflect that. It's just simply the minutes and the retreat minutes. Any concerns with any items on the consent agenda that you'd like to move out? Okay?
I noticed one thing reading the minutes from the retreat. Just one of the things we talked about for our goals for transportation,
Yep.
but didn't know if that would be brought up then or brought up now, or?
I would say, let's
So-
bring it up during the discussion of the consent agenda tonight, okay?
But,
I don't have so much about, you done?
yeah.
I don't know so much about the consent agenda, but I know we talked about in our goal-setting meeting that there could very well be other goals that we would be concerned about. In fact, I went through the old goals.
Yeah.
looked at them. There were several in there that I thought would be important enough to talk about, so I'd like to be able to discuss those and see if there's anything we could add to that would be a consensus for the group. So as long as that was part of the process, I would be.
I apologize, I jumped over it. We are gonna be having a conversation outside of the consent agenda on council goals on the agenda tonight. So that would be the time that we could go through and talk about
That's
that.
kind of what I thought, so I want to make
Yeah.
sure that was.
Yes,
put in.
I apologize, I skipped over
Yeah,
that.
cause I
So
didn't
just-
know, I mean,
yes.
do we need to have another retreat, cause there was a lot of stuff that we didn't get through, a lot of things that never even
Yeah.
got any acknowledgement, and I don't know that
4
you
pages.
could do that in an hour or two.
Yeah, well, I'm open for another to visit another retreat here in the next, several months. You just, with that, right, we've got joint parks coming up. I'm gonna be talking about a little bit in, my mayor's report tonight, some agenda items, but we're gonna have to really revisit the community campus and the opposite stuff, right? So, that's gonna be kind of maybe a half-day, full-day thing just in itself that we're gonna have to do. So one item to consider is we only have, some like 4, 5 really strong goals. Some of these are going to get addressed kind of almost immediately, right away. I would be open to, I'm open to anything, but I'd be really open to maybe another goal-setting retreat kind of midway through the year, quite
Sure.
honestly.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I-
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to think, the stuff that I reviewed, the old, there's quite a few things that we completed. I don't think anything comes up that would be of concern, but I guess I would like to put my placeholder in there, that when we review these goals that I'm concerned about, that we want to put in there, if they are something that's timely, I reserve the comment to be able to say, I think there's some of these things that need to be talked about sooner than later.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, totally.
But let me review them.
Yeah.
I made several comments on
They're
my,
coming to us on February 4th.
is that the next time we're going to look at that?
Yeah.
That's-
Yes,
that's
yes, we're
pretty
not
quick.
voting on those tonight, we're just kind of having a discussion on the draft of them, yeah.
That's quick.
So do we, in talking
That
about
guy.
consent, I'm getting you a shirt. I'll get you a fake suit.
Yeah.
So then do we need to make amendments to consent agenda minutes? Was there something in the consent agenda minutes about our retreat that didn't mirror the conversation for you?
I'm hazy about which ones would be you're talking about, so. I
Well,
don't know
just
which
if there
one.
was something that was missed that you feel like should have been in the minutes that we did discuss?
Oh, no.
Or is it
no,
just a
no,
matter of I
no.
wanted to discuss or feel like we needed to
No, I just think that we
discuss?
didn't cover all the goals completely because we had time constraints.
Okay.
I just wanted
So
to-
we're good with the
Yeah,
consent
all
agenda?
right.
I agree with that. I saw this here that we were gonna be doing it in February.
Yeah,
Mine was just one line item that we did talk about that made the first part of it under transportation.
okay. All right. Senja, and then the rest is history, will be tonight. So, the questions, does everybody have a copy of the questions in front of them that was sent around? I can read through these and we can start
I didn't bring them with
I
me.
didn't see
ranking
them.
them. All right,
I saw them, I didn't bring them.
I mean, I
with me.
saw them, but I didn't make a copy.
perfect, thank you.
Oh, you have them already?
All right.
I didn't bring it on my phone.
We'll need them anyway tonight when we go to ask questions for
I'll be the one with chip stains all over it.
Not me. Done with interviews, no more interviews, rest of my life.
spent 8 hours in interviews today, do another 8 hours tomorrow.
Stan, before we start this,
Yeah.
can we maybe have just some same page conversation on the,
Go for it.
how we're gonna go through the process?
Start up.
So I know every time we do this, we do it a little bit different.
Mhm.
And so I think one of the important things for each of the candidates is that we're asking the same question from candidate to candidate and not a
We should
different
read it.
variation.
Yeah, we should read
And
it.
so I think make sure who's gonna be reading what, that you ask the same question, no changes. If we're gonna do follow-up, we do the same follow-up for everybody. Or we don't do follow-up at all, but to just kinda get on the same page with that, cause I think we fumble a little bit
I agree.
when that moment happens.
And I'm not willing to fluctuate the time, so I know that I've seen that happen, but, you know, we're looking at 2 to 3 minutes per question, and whether we feel like it's going too long or too short, we're staying to 2 to 3 minutes. Let's go 3 minutes per question.
Are you gonna time the
Okay.
question or the interview
I
as a
think the
whole?
whole chunk, if we're doing 15 minutes, we should time the whole thing and have a timer or something go off.
Okay.
Cause it will dig us out when we get like 15 minutes and done with the
So
question.
rather than do question, you just wanna do the full 15, just say, hey, you got 15 minutes to get through this?
I think a good way to do it, we'll pick out the number of questions that averages out to about 2 to 3 minutes
Okay.
per question. You'll self-manage your time per question. At the end of the 15 minutes, we have a timer that will go off, or if we're at 20 minutes or whatever we agree on time per candidate, that, at that point, the interview will end.
Okay, alright, Lori?
Yeah, so that's fine. The only thing I would add to that then is if you have follow-up questions, they need to be asked at the end because you can't use their time up to ask them follow-up questions based on a previous answer.
Maybe we don't ask follow-up questions.
There you
because
go.
We don't have to do that.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
because that's not fair to the candidate.
yeah, Carl?
We got 15 minutes and there's 3 minutes per question, that's only 5 questions. So a little bit of intro probably to make sure that they know what we're doing and
Yeah,
what the process, so
Four
we're talking 4 questions, yeah.
okay, so as we look through these, let's remember that, we're looking at about 4 questions, okay?
Some of these questions could be answered in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
and-
That's true too.
And some will
Some
answer
will
in a
take
minute,
5
and they'll go
minutes.
like,
Some will take
I've got
5
11 minutes left.
Somebody will be verbose and they'll talk 5 minutes on something.
So some of the conversations back and forth is one, people weren't in love with previous questions asked, right? So there were efforts put in place to kind of say, hey, you know, what is your vision in certain categories, you know, of issues facing our community? And then some of the concerns that I had with the questions personally that I wanted to make sure was added in was time commitment. Really having an understanding of kind of what the job entails and the time away from, you know, your personal life and really kind of the motives and incentives and wanting to jump in and do it. Go ahead.
Isn't that something that, I guess you as the mayor should be saying a little bit about that?
Yeah.
These people may not know what's going on and
Yeah,
we've had some troubles with that, finding out that the reality of the world is you can't be here just 2 nights a month and that's all you do.
so kind of do it in the intro when they
I
come
would
sit
say-
down? Yeah,
Just tell them.
yeah, absolutely,
And if they decide they wanna quit because
yeah,
they wanna do that,
Yeah.
that helps us, right?
yeah.
Be done soon.
Okay. So, I'm gonna start with, should I start with the other suggestions, or you guys want me to go through the previous question? Well, let's just go through it. What do you perceive to be the most positive issue and the most negative issue for Sandy? People in love with that question? Nope?
Is anybody in love with any of A through F?
No.
No,
Me neither.
All right.
absolutely.
I like F.
I think C is an okay
F is a
question.
fine question to leave.
What was that, Lori?
I think C is an okay question. I'm not in love with it, but I think it's an okay question.
It's almost you're not going through a campaign, so you don't make campaign promises, so what would they be anyway?
Right.
Oh, that's true, right.
All right.
Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
The new
I
questions are
think
much
F-
better.
Yeah, I agree.
F is really pretty critical, I think, of having us answer questions and so on. A version of B, I like B because there is a need to be a team player and be able to understand that you have to find a way to convince 3 other people to make your
Right.
style go. And understanding what their leadership style is, and they may be only a perception of what their leadership style is, but I would like to hear, because I haven't talked to all these people.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, I have talked with 2 of them already, and they can come to me. Well, I would like to know what their leadership style is, or their communication style, whichever you want to call it.
Okay.
Maybe if there's a better question for it. don't think it's written
They're
right.
gonna answer, I'm a collaborative leader.
Mhm.
All of them will answer, I'm a collaborative leader. I just don't think there's a lot of meat that we get out of that question.
That's a good point, yeah.
All right, so number
Okay.
1, Why are you interested in serving as a city councilor for the city of Sandy?
I like that question.
Yep.
I like it too. Okay.
That's where they can jump in and say how collaborative they are.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And their leadership style.
My leadership style is a raspberry.
All right, 2, a city councilor performs a very vital, important role for the community. The time commitment includes several evening meetings a month, reviewing reports, meeting materials, serving as a liaison to boards and commissions. Are you able to dedicate the time to be a successful and effective city councilor? So I guess my question to you guys is, do you want to keep that as a question, or do you just want to address it in the opening remarks?
Well, I think in addressing it, I think it should be addressed, but that doesn't give anyone in the open to be able to answer that, to think about, like, it's there,
Yeah.
but what does it mean? Because you laid it out,
Yeah, it's pretty.
more,
I think everybody's got big eyes though when they see this opportunity that they miss, like what it really means on the tail ends. I don't know that in the current situation they're in as a candidate for this, that they're gonna recognize the commitment and be able to understand what the commitment's actually like. I think it looks good in an opening, but if we kept it in there and asked everybody, we've got them on record saying, yes, I can commit to this, which I think process-wise helps us in the end run. And it actually could make it, we have 5 questions now, this one takes about 15 seconds to ask.
Right.
So it's almost like, before we move forward, are you able to commit to da-da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah, so
Yes.
almost like this is the first question.
yeah,
Right.
I think it would.
So,
Yeah.
so are we wanting that, so that very last sentence, are you able to dedicate your time, blah, blah, blah? That's a yes, no, response, so if you're wanting him to elaborate on that question, to talk about the time commitments, I'm just asking. If you are, then I think we need to rephrase that last sentence.
I
And if
think
you just
so.
want it to be a yes, no, then leave it. That's all I'm throwing out.
I'm jumping ahead on one piece of this, and that is the F, you have questions for us. I wonder if it'd be beneficial to invite all the candidates, not have any one individual ask questions, but invite all the candidates back to have them all be able to ask questions so all can hear the same responses and answers. In case one, because I'm probably not voting or ranking their ability to ask a question back about what this
Right.
job is.
Right.
So it's probably less value to me of what type of question they ask. Because
Is it better-
the reality is they don't have experience. None of them have been city councilors before, so they don't know much about the job.
Well, one has.
One has, I'd be open to that, Carl.
I like the idea of making it first. I think that's up front. If either in an intro or that first question is saying something like that. Are you ready? If they say no, then goodbye. Question from Jordan. Did they get any kind of intro at all about what the job was like, what they were expected to do and that kind of stuff when they applied? Or was there any conversation, just a piece of paper or an electronic form that came into the office?
Yeah, they're just a form, and then, what you got is what the questions they answered.
So again, they have no idea what the job.
Well, I would
So
think if
there's-
they were applying, they would have looked at the website and maybe looked at some meetings.
You'd hope.
Yeah, well, at least a couple of them have been involved.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Okay. What role should the city play in assisting our business community? What are the top 3 challenges facing Sandy?
I like that question.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the Sandy Community Campus?
I think 4 can contain that one.
I agree. Do you have experience in local government budgeting?
I don't know if that's
A little specific.
Yeah.
I would vote to get, not ask
Yeah.
that
I
question.
agree.
They go, no.
Any objections to striking it? Okay. The city is embarking on an update of our Parks and Trails Master Plan. In your opinion, where should we focus our future efforts on parks? I think it's we're getting into the weeds here, guys.
Well, it's that, and then
Or-
you have a couple people, well, or at least one person that is currently on the park, so they're
Two,
gonna,
right?
two, thank you, Jeremy, you're right, there's 2.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have a little more knowledge to answer that question than other people will,
Yeah.
so.
That one I think should be scratched.
Yeah.
There's no need reason why they should know.
Okay.
We skipped 7, though, maybe yours is out of.
Describe your vision for the community.
Oh, sorry. Describe your vision for the community. What does it look like in 20 years? I like that question.
I do too.
Okay.
Like, I'm a visionary.
Now you are.
No.
9, where should the city prioritize our transportation resources, traffic, road maintenance, pathways, bike lanes, trails, mass transit?
It kind of looks like 8 for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it.
All right, strike. The Sandy Urban Renewal Plan has been a catalyst for transforming the downtown with facade improvements and implementing the Sandy style. What do you think should be the next step in developing our downtown?
I kinda like this one, but I also think that it's pretty broad, big dream, and might set them up to say some things they wanna see happen that aren't, they don't know the reality of
The
what can,
situation.
yeah.
Right, Carl?
If they're alive and they're living in Sandy, they're gonna have seen the facade program and what that means to them. To me, this looks like an opportunity for them to respond back to what their knowledge of the city is a little bit and come up with a, kind of a, what's the next step would be something that they would get a good idea.
Like
Or even
their
if nothing
engagement.
else, at least.
This reminds
gives
me
them
of
something to
the,
look at.
and both of you answered this one, what are the new revenue generating ideas, and it's kinda like, come on, you guys are, I mean, if you're really in tune, you're gonna come up with something, but probably gonna go like, I don't know, and I'm not expecting much of a response on that either, cause I'm like, if you've got anything on this,
We're actually,
great.
I figured you guys were asking that question intentionally just to get some new ideas.
Jeremy?
I think, you know, just kinda like 8, 9 is pretty specific, not every candidate's gonna know like what urban renewal even is, but I agree with, I think some of that will come out, hopefully will come out in, you know, just,
three.
right, your community in 20 years and what are your jobs to be facing in your family.
Right.
But-
Jen?
But I don't think very many citizens know what's in the Sandy Urban Renewal Plan.
I
Yeah.
agree. Or even how those dollars, where it is, how those dollars work, what.
That's something to do with Portland, I'm sure.
Carl?
They probably don't know what is in the plan, but they certainly know what the facade improvements are.
Right.
Unless you're dead or not driving through Sandy. And I think that getting a reaction to some kind of thing that's happened in Sandy, that's obviously changed Sandy substantially, has a lot to be involved. I think maybe even 11 might be that same kind of question, but a different tact on how it is. But I'd like to hear them come back with what they think of Sandy in some format. We're talking about 4 questions and we're down to
Right, but
one more left over.
I think 11 is
We're
very
not done,
important.
you're right, I think 11 is very important, because sometimes things don't jump off of a resume to us,
Mhm.
but, you know, they can give us
Sure.
some background and passion behind, you know, some of the projects they've worked on.
So thumbs up on 11.
Yeah, some
I'm
of
certainly in favor of
I'm still looking at 10 for you, Carl, we'll come back to it.
that. Okay.
12, in your opinion, what are the most important services the city of Sandy provides to the community? I think it's pretty good question. It gives you,
I think it's a great question.
yeah.
I didn't write it, but.
It'll give you a sense of what their priorities are in their own mind,
Mhm.
because that's what they're gonna base that off.
And what their interaction and involvement is with the city.
And
Yeah.
again, I'm looking for something that comes out of these people to say what they've been involved in, what they know about the city, what they've been, more than just a dead body someplace, and they happen to see it in the newspaper, and they thought would be a good way to make status, to say, I'm a city council.
Yeah, I
I'd like to
think-
see them feed us back something that they're being involved in.
So I think we're getting to what you're looking for in 12, in a lot more of a broad aspect than 11 that kind of, they may
It's
not
very
necessarily.
specific that way.
Yeah.
4 and 7, I mean, if number
I-
4, top 3
I should have just
challenges,
used hers rather
and
than-
describe your vision for the community, like, those are pieces where I think there's a lot of meat on both of those.
Yeah.
I think the reality is, I know, Carl, you have an opinion on if somebody is living under a rock or dead on the facade program, but I saw a reaction over here, and I will tell you too, I didn't know what urban renewal was, I didn't know what the facade program was, and I put my name in to be involved, and I've been on the budget committee, and I think I might have heard it
Where's the
a
rock
little
at?
bit.
Sure, there's a rock here
But, I
somewhere.
mean, seriously, like, it's one of those pieces where it's like, until you really get into this, you don't understand enough to talk about it. Like, you
Yeah.
could say, oh, is that the thing where we're doing the front of the businesses and making them look all like sistersy kind of thing? Like, I mean, that's probably a reaction you're gonna get from
Yeah.
most folks, where they're like, oh no, that program's great, they reimburse the da-da-da-da. I mean, and we're gonna be expecting some knowledge on that, I just don't think we're gonna get it.
Lori?
Yeah, that's all I was gonna say. I get where you're going with it, but I think you've had to have lived here for a period of time to even know that that program exists. Otherwise, you moved here, you lived here 2-3 years, it's like, well, these buildings just look like this, you know? So, yeah.
Is that Jeremy?
So I think reading the resumes, out of all, just, I don't know if any of them know what that is, except for one who created it.
Yeah,
So that, we already all know that.
yeah.
Right, right. Okay.
And I also think, sorry,
Go ahead.
I also think it's important that no one question plays to anybody's advantage.
So,
Carl?
I'll back off that question, but what are we looking for in the council? We're looking for somebody who has interest in Sandy, some time and the energy to be able to be a participative counselor. And I'm wondering, are we asking the right questions for that? I guess that's a question I'm asking the rest of us, is that, are these 4 questions, I guess I'm looking at.
Well, let me
before that we have
then
circled.
take us to the next step, right? So let's review the questions left, and then let's see if we've answered that question through that, okay? So, what I'm seeing here as a maybe is, if you're appointed to council with 3 goals you would like to see the council achieve during your term, we marked that as a maybe.
Which number is that?
Let's see.
That was C.
Oh, we talked C, okay.
Yep.
Because we said maybe there, okay? Then, why are you interested in serving as a city councilor for the city of Sandy? The very first question out of the gate will be a city councilor performs a very vital and important role for the community. The time commitment includes several evening meetings a month, reviewing reports and meeting materials, and serving as a liaison to boards and commissions. Are you able to dictate the time to be successful and effective as a city councilor?
Dedicate.
Dedicate. So basically 4 is C, right, guys? I mean, what is the top 3 challenges facing Sandy?
Yeah,
That's
for
the
sure.
same question,
Well, that's-
okay?
yep.
A better phrasing of it.
Yep.
Yep, so, all right.
So we're doing 4?
We're doing 4.
We're doing
4.
We're doing 4, okay? Describe your vision for the community. What does Sandy look like in 20 years? My question to all of you is that question too much like the previous question? Or do we like keeping both?
I think there might be a little theme carryover,
Yeah,
with the challenges and what the vision is,
Yeah.
if they're talking about growth.
Yeah.
But I think that second half of the question is very different
I agree.
from the challenges, and I think that will also help kind of for us to see alignment with our goals as a council.
Right. And then Carl?
Again, if we're talking about people who are still under the sort of rock, I won't call them just dead rock, they may not know what that vision could be, what that vision is going to be when they look at all the issues that are gonna be coming across when they are sitting in that seat over there. So I'm wondering if they're gonna be able to come up with a cohesive type of answer from that.
But I think 20 years allows you to jump hurdle over that and say, you know, wastewater and revenue and all that to the side, right? 20 years from now, what do we want the community of Sandy looking like? So it just allows us to kind of see where their priority is.
Yeah.
And this is the part where you get a response and someone says, well, I've really thought about that. I don't know, my friend told me that I should put my name in, and then we're going.
Or they might have a very different vision than what this council has. And
Yeah.
Right.
you could like them on paper and like their other answers, but you want someone that you're gonna work well with, that shares sort of where you wanna lead this community.
Yeah, I guess contrary to that, I don't want to be argumentative, but I think when they sit in that seat for a couple of months and they're participating, they're gonna find a whole new world out there than what they think they see from the television and in their seat at home.
So we still have a big conversation on ODOT in front of us, guys, okay? So what has been your civic involvement in the Sandy community? And then, in your opinion, what are the most important services the city of Sandy provides to the community? So that leaves us with how many questions?
5.
5.
And do you have any questions for us?
And so bring them all back
in and do
in.
that. Okay.
And do you have any questions for us? What have you kind of ordering these?
You gotta tell me which one.
Okay.
All right.
Kind of more.
Jordan?
I think we have 7.
2, 4,
Oh, give me
7.
Yeah, I have 7.
So 1, 2, 4, 7, 11,
Oh, I
12,
skipped one, I'm
and
sorry.
F.
Yep,
and F. 1, 2, 4, 7, 11, 12, F.
I skipped
1,
one.
2, 4, 7,
Did
11,
we skip
12.
C? I thought we
Yeah.
had C.
No, we're not doing that.
7, and the 7th will be, everybody will be in there for it. The first is a yes, no. So question number 2 is a yes, no, and that'll go in the introductory statement. So we probably shouldn't start the time until
So I
Stan
say
has
we
done
go
the-
7 questions, and now that we've had 2 drop out, we consider 20 minutes a candidate. Thoughts on that? Yeah.
We got 5 now?
Go through them again, because I've got some scratched out and some scratched in. So why don't we have F at the very end.
All right, so we're gonna start with the city count at number 2,
Right.
okay? Then we're gonna go to number 1, number 4, number 7, number 11, number 12. Then we're gonna call them all in for questions for us.
And do we drop F then?
F is questions
That's
for.
questions for us, we're gonna call them all in,
Hold
back
it.
in. Hold
Oh,
it.
They all
okay.
get to hear what
I
each other
got
asks,
you.
and they all get to hear
I think if
the
you're
answers.
gonna bring that one in, you could leave it at 15 minutes, if you're gonna bring that one in
Okay.
for the crew.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's do that, leave it at 15, then
Yeah.
bring them all in.
The only thing about bringing them all back in is they will likely stick around for your deliberation as long as you ask them to leave.
Good point, Jordan.
If we do it in the open, in a public meeting, we should have them all here. I mean, I know I expressed my concern about that, but if it's gonna be, it's gonna be. We'll sit there and we'll tear them apart.
All right, do we got it set? Now, are we gonna be able to get these in front of us so that we can ask it in a coherent fashion?
And then,
We'll do that, so.
Okay. Go
may I
ahead.
make a comment?
Yeah.
That make it nice so that we all ask the same question, we're not rotating from one, you know, like I start, then you start, then. But I ask the same question to every candidate. Does that
That's
make
right,
sense?
yeah, we're gonna do that.
And then we'll pick how you wanna go.
Let's
for-
figure that out.
You wanna
You
go.
wanna figure that out right now, guys?
Let's do it real quick.
All right.
People, 5
So,
questions.
since I'm gonna start with the explanation and the time commitment, I'm gonna ask number 2. Is that okay?
Right.
All right. All
And
right,
you can
so
ask
then-
F too, when we invite him back in.
That's,
Then-
yeah, that's not even in the group, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then we're gonna go to,
I'll do-
Hamlin?
I'll do one, yep. Where are you interested in
that
serving as?
guy,
Yep, that guy, got it.
John, all right, then we're going over to, Lori.
number 4,
Top 3 challenges.
excellent, I only have to say 8 words.
Eight
All
words.
right. And then we're going all the way back over to
Yeah.
Carl.
Well, Jan's next.
Skipping me?
Oh, we're going to you? Now you're that
Oh,
guy?
I skipped that guy.
Jeremy?
I mean, you can.
Jeremy, what do you
Council
ask?
President, that guy.
A 7.
7 for Jeremy. And then we're going to Carl
For 11?
for 11. And then Jan
Mhm.
for 12.
Hey, it worked out.
You good?
Yep.
All right, got an interview process,
Sorry, I
ladies and
just wanted
gentlemen.
to, that helps out.
All right, ODOT, we're just gonna talk bypass the whole time. We're good, right, guys?
No, we're not.
It's
important.
I overheard a conversation, by the way.
Yeah.
I want to say it's important. There's a lot of them on the map.
Yeah, all right. So, does everybody have what Jordan sent around on the ODOT topics?
Didn't bring it with me.
Okay, so let's just go through them.
It's right there.
Oh,
Yep.
good job.
I love it, Jordan.
Woo!
Good man.
Good.
Technology.
All right,
Nice.
so, first one. Status of the STIP project K18823. Basically, sidewalk, pedestrian path on US 26 between Vista Loop and Ten Eyck.
We really need to know that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there's a couple of things for that.
Okay.
We have let that go for so many years. Gotta keep that
All right,
pressure on.
so, okay, so many years, just pause, right? Why don't we bring the rest of council up to speed then? Jeremy, Carl,
want it?
go ahead.
Either way.
Although I was on C4 when we first got approved this project was one of the things that we had taken with a couple other projects to C4 and went through the whole process. It was presented up, we got awarded that, and I believe it was the bus barn thing at the same time.
Yep.
That's now been done, right? No, oh, sorry.
Okay.
But if it was, but because of the funding with the state and the feds, things got pushed back another whole set of years, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you know this pretty good. And so, we've been in that process. ODOT now has come back to the council 2 times, with Mike coming back going, hey, they wanna have this, it's gonna cost more from the city to bring this project,
Our portion of.
our portion of this up to speed.
Yes.
In this, the sidewalk has been something that was been on the council goals from before I got on council up there because of so many kids and people walking down the highway on that side of the house, on that side of the highway. The project is very expensive because it goes over an embankment there and it has to be kind of lifted up and those type of things with some driveways. So that's concern there. One thing about it is there's pretty much no way we would do this on our own because we do need some outside money. Some of the outside money we do have set aside is quite hefty.
Right.
It's a pretty big fee. Is there another way of doing this? When do we cut bait?
And then how much is our portion versus ODOT?
I can't remember.
$500,000 sidewalk.
Yeah, it's, you remember, Mike would be the one that needs.
It's several $100,000, so it's And it increased quite a bit this last time.
It did.
The only thing I would add is that the 8 years I was on council, this was like number 1 or number 2 priority for us to get this done because of everything Jeremy talked about. Mom was coming down from low-income apartments, walking down that road, just inches of space between the cars and the edge of some of these steep embankments. 5-year-old is just running around circles around the mama and a little stroller. Scares me to death to think that somebody's gonna get hurt or worse.
Can I make a recommendation that, because this is just a topic item for ODOT, I'd love to hear ODOT's response at this. That doesn't mean we keep with this going forward
Yeah.
or make different, but I want to hear their response.
Yeah.
So I'd like to have it on there to hear their response. Then we can make a more informed decision when we come back around going, because we've been in dialogue with them for now way too many years. But we get that face to face, and then we can reevaluate whether we keep it or not.
Any concerns keeping it on? Okay, okay.
Concerns I have is I don't want it to come off.
Huh?
I don't want this to come off the list of.
Yeah, so let's keep it on the, I am going to, I'd like to challenge Counselor So to pick up the phone, schedule coffee, consider, Jordan might kick me for this, consider getting together with Mike and talking to him. I'm going to. If we might have quorum issues, but if one wants to come with me and do it, but let's consider doing our homework on these because, and probably not so much the two of you need to, right? But some of us newer ones, this is an important meeting with ODOT, so let's make sure that we're doing our homework on it, okay?
So couldn't he come to us as the council and give us an update without having to?
Without having to do that, do we have time to do that? That's the only concern I have.
I think it's okay for the workshop on the 12th, that it is more of an update on some of these things in a dialogue between ODOT and the council. Say, hey, where are we with Project K1882?
Yeah.
And then kind of talking more about what the council's vision is for that, and then what's the process moving forward. I think you're gonna get, since this is ODOT, and these are ODOT projects, you're gonna probably get more information directly from the planners and the traffic engineers and the project engineers than you are from Mike, so.
Okay.
My intent, this is actually my list, most of these are mine. The intent for the STIP project was that I just wanted to see what ODOT was doing in terms of status, because they were inclined to start doing work on this thing. And I know once we start getting letters to some of these people that are on that road, we're gonna start getting phone calls that says, oh my goodness, I'm gonna lose my front yard, I'm gonna have my driveway changed. Part of that was for me to understand what I'm going to say to my constituents when we call them, find out what's going on, why am I getting the engineering. So this is mostly an update.
I think an update is healthy. I think we also need to recognize too that as we do the second bullet point, which is identifying projects that potentially could be eligible through the STIP process, that we also don't lock ourselves into one that may not be a reality as well too. So I think the Post had an article on this after the last discussion, and the price has gone up substantially. I think it's around $325,000, but overall project cost potentially being about $900,000 for the city. And I think even at $300,000, is that the top priority for us, considering other projects that we may try pushing through ODOT.
Right.
That I don't want to just lock us into one, but have an opportunity to look at multiples or others as well too.
We're on number 2, right?
Yeah.
At this point. The only intent there for me was that we would talk about possibilities. And I don't know that we are not at that point where the council is ready to say, this is a priority 1 for me, probably 2, priority 3. I'm just thinking of several examples of things that could be done on our Highway 26 that will help some of the processes going along, to make it easier for people to cross, maybe easier for people to clear the Highway 26 parking lot that happens on a Friday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. And that's all I was looking for. Just a kind of a brainstorming, if you will, for the kind of things that could be done to help that traffic problems today, this next few days, because that piece about getting a study about the bypass is going to happen in over a decade, if not more. And to me, we need to do something before that happens, as well as plan for the future.
There's several, right. So
I think this is like 3 and 4. What you're talking about to me is 3 and 4.
Right, discussion.
So
Those
those are
areas.
specifics, because they were just so clear to me that that was something that, why couldn't we do that kind of stuff? Blinking yellow lights for pedestrians. It just seems to me like that would be fairly cheap to do.
Jan?
But aren't we giving these questions or these topics to them and they're supposed to come back with
So this,
preparedness?
and this is what worries me about this meeting with all this is whether it's our intentions to or not, we're just looking for status updates. We're in a way expressing to ODOT what our priority list is. And some of these, we gotta make sure are legitimately our priorities as to what our asks are from ODOT, because we're only gonna get so much from them, right? So, I mean, that's,
When a STIP process comes through, as we know, we only get one chance at a time of a year, but we're competing with everybody in the region, so.
One of the things about this list a little bit is that if we get the response back from the ODOT that says, this is a $2 million process, and there's no chance of even getting any kind of money in that format, then we can evaluate that response and say, well, that's probably not gonna be our number one selection for any future monies. And I know there are several ways to go at this, not just in council, but also at C4, and also when we go down to legislators and seeing how we get the Christmas gifts at the end of legislation. So there's a lot of ways we can communicate this, but I was hoping that we could talk with ODOT, more of getting feedback from them about, yeah, that's a really good idea, I haven't thought about that.
Right.
What about that? And the other one about the traffic signal operations.
Yep.
I thought, and excuse me if I'm getting off the deep end here, but I thought that was a done deal. We already had the money set aside to do that project, but it appears as if it hasn't been done, and I'm wondering where we are with that. So some of this could be just giving me an idea where the ODOT is with some of these projects. So,
any other statements on what's up there? So I want to talk, obviously I want to talk about the viability study for a local bypass, priority of mine. I'd also like to talk about, and I'm not asking for this from ODOT, but I am curious in what kind of transfers they have done for local control of some of the roads and what kind of state funding and stuff long-term is available. I know that this is a conversation that we're not going to get anywhere in the next 2 years on that, right? But I do want to start the process of what that looks like. I have not colleagues, but contacts within the organization that it is a priority for them to release some of these state highways. A big reason it is, though, is because we're tired of paying for them, right? So, I mean, eyes wide open on that on funding, but there is some state funding resources that could come available. So both of my priorities are more longer term approaches. So on kind of the short, what we want short term versus long term. So those are the two kind of longer term projects that are personal priorities of mine. I'd like to get council feedback on that. But I'd like to mix that with some of these shorter term priorities as well that we talk to them about when they're in here.
So the ones I would have that aren't on that list is to talk about Bluff as a failing intersection. We hear that. And if they could bring any data with them, because we hear that is a failing intersection we can't fix. And what kind of things would be the requirements or what we need to know about for doing the 362nd interchange and changing that, because we know it needs to be changed even before we have a road built north and that type of thing, as that was on our goals as well. So just kind of what would be involved in that, or learn, from a council, what do we need to know about doing that?
It's a big one. And then, Jordan, there was a conversation, you understand this stuff better than I do so far, is back and forth with Mike and talking about kind of the priorities of the traffic flow going through Sandy. Currently, it's ODOT's position that about 70% of the traffic flow on Highway 26 is our residents rather than people passing through. And that affects us with the prioritization of both our projects as well as their agreement of how much of the pie that they're gonna put in versus us. However, even if we're able to, and my idea was, let's track it then, and let's come forward with facts, right, that say, this is the traffic flow. My concern there, my understanding is even if we develop these facts and go to ODOT and say, look, it's actually reversed, right? 70% are not our residents and outside. They have no obligation at that point to come forward and meet us with those funds. So we're kind of in a tough spot there because at the end of the day, ODOT doesn't have any obligation to meet us meet us halfway on any of these projects. Yeah, Jan?
Doesn't counting the traffic on a weekday versus a weekend day show that significant difference?
Well, I would consider only counting it on the weekend, yeah. Yeah, Carl.
A couple things there is that, as I understand it, ODOT does what we tell them to do. I know that there's a hierarchy, and the legislature is the one that supposedly tells them to do, but it seems to me that they're wagging the dog, and we should be wagging them. So there's that. The other thing is we've done several surveys, number surveys over the years. And the last one happened this last summer, and I haven't seen any of that. I would love to see some of those stats. That's not on the list there, but I know they did one last summer, and I was told that it said 70% is local traffic. I'd like to hear where that comes from. And then also, if we could look at the previous one, 'cause what I'm thinking about is let's say we had 30,000 cars a day going through it 5 years ago, and today we got 50,000 cars today. What's gonna happen in 10 years from now? I mean, if we got 65, 70,000 cars a day going through Sandy, that's incredibly unacceptable. And we've gotta fill that, that's part of our defense of what this long-term strategy is gonna be for us. I think that's really important to see those numbers.
And it's important to bring up where they're all going. They're going to our top tourist destinations in this state. So there is a big reason why we want to help those folks get there, right? And it helps our city. Okay, last comment from you, John, because we got to start cleaning up the tables and get
So
ready.
I've been nervous about this workshop only because I've seen some of the agenda items, and a lot of them just seem like it'd be an easy response for ODOT to provide us without having to meet. But I wonder if we, and it's kind of been brought up a couple times, we ask them for data about traffic in our area and what they might be able to ascertain out of some of that data, or some trends that they've seen in the data, kind of look at a few identified intersections, just say, bring this and talk with us about it. So it kind of puts the information in our hands, and also kind of gets them some ownership of it as well too, because it's their data. Because I think on some of these, like that very first one, I'm just kind of looking at, like, yep, we're still working on it, and it's kind of like, what more to it?
Right.
And then the second one, well, here's the process for STIP funds,
Right.
and then what more to it? And then, well, what do you think about this intersection? It's almost, it's not a gotcha on some of them, but it's kind of like, what can we do? And I just feel like there's a generic response.
So to clarify, almost have them bring a presentation to us on traffic flow data and research that they've conducted, and then allow that to kind of lead a lot of our questions and back and forth. I like it, yeah. We got
In 8 years I've been on council, and 4 years before that on planning commission, we've never had this happen.
What?
We had ODOT show up at one of these meetings?
Oh, yeah,
Or
two
council-
or three times, yeah.
Was it conversational piece?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we've had some good in fact, the last one I went to was a really good one. It's been a few years, like 3 or 4
I
years.
don't remember when it happened, I guess it's.
All right, folks.
Okay.
Lori, did you have?
I was just gonna say, is it out of the realm of possibilities to just ask them to bring some proposals for possible solutions?
I don't know if we're there.
I don't think
Yeah,
they'll have
they're-
a-
Wait, ahead, too
Yeah.
early?
It just as a reminder, this was meant to be more of a.
Just an update?
An open conversation like this.
Gotcha.
Where, it's not.
No challenges.
You know, shouting matches.
I'm bringing my pitchfork.
Mean
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a conversation about how we move forward.
Adjourn the work session. pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carrie, we call the roll.
Counselor Pietzel.
Here.
Counselor Smallwood.
Here.
Counselor Hamlin.
Present.
Counselor Lee.
Here.
Counselor Exner.
Here.
Mayor Pulling.
Here. All right, welcome everyone. Just real quickly, do a review of tonight's agenda. There will be a moment for public comment for issues not on the agenda. If you decide to speak at that time, please come to the podium, say your name, address. You'll have 5 minutes to address the council. Under new business tonight, our council will be addressing our city council policy on growth and possible amendments to our growth policy. We will be talking about the draft of our 2019 city council goals and making any amendments to those from the eventual adoption of those at our meeting on February 4th. We will then be conducting city council candidate interviews for candidates for our open seat here on city council. We have our consent agenda. We'll then have reports from our city manager, and a little bit different tonight moving forward. We will, I was going to mention this in the agenda meeting, we will be uniting our counselor and committee reports at the same time when we go around. So instead of going around and doing that twice, just be prepared to give both your committee and your council report at that time. We'll give any staff here who wants an opportunity to speak up and give a report to do so, and then we will adjourn. First item on the agenda, is there any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to public comment for items not currently on the agenda. Yes, sir. Please come to the podium. Remember to say your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you again.
My name is David Brings. I live at 18390 Mining Avenue, Sandy, Oregon. I've approximately been there about 4 years now, and I've noticed a big issue with traffic and cars speeding up and down the hill and using it as a bypass route to get to DeBarco and the other neighborhoods in the area. I've noticed it's extremely unsafe for children. Myself, I've almost been hit just trying to back out of my own driveway. My neighbors have had the same issue. Cars keep coming up the hill. They do about 40 to 50 miles an hour. Even when you ask them to slow down, they just speed right by you and act like you're nuts. Personally, I've tried talking to the City of Sandy Police Department and Officer Moody to get more patrols on the road and more posted officers up on the hill. It works once in a while. I see an officer there for about a half hour to an hour a day after I complain. After that, it's extremely random. I was told by Officer Moody that the speed trailer that not only that tells people their speed when they're coming up the hill, but kind of also uses as a deterrent, was broken and the batteries needed to be replaced in it. I don't know if that's still the case or not. My suggestion is, what I'm trying to succeed in is get speed humps. Every other neighborhood in the city of Sandy has speed humps, especially one as popular as our area. And I think it would go a long ways to slowing down the people or deterring them back to Highway 211 and then back onto DeBarco. Or you got Wolf Drive that leads into those neighborhoods. You also have Lane and Sand that leads into those neighborhoods. All which are a lot more developed and ready for the traffic that can house the people. That's it.
All right, thank you. Real quick, was there any questions for David while he's up here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you know the process for getting applications for speed bumps? And if you don't, we can sure get them to you.
So I went to them and I was told that I had to do a neighborhood, get signatures from everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, okay, so
When I went to try to get more information on that, they told me I had to include people off of Evans and Barker. And the problem with that is Mining is not that big. It doesn't include Evans and Barker. Those are contributaries off of Mining Avenue. Mining Avenue alone has our own neighborhood. We have that apartment complex, we have the cul-de-sac. And then individual houses, I want to guess there's somewhere around 15 to 20 houses, not including the apartments.
Sure.
I mean, that should be the neighborhood for Mining Avenue, not the contributaries of the rest of the area.
Okay. But you know the process, and I guess that was important.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. All right, thank you, appreciate it. So just a comment on this. So I had coffee with David this morning. First, I wanted to thank you. A lot of community members, well, just people in our country complain and then they don't show up to a council meeting and give a statement. So I wanted to thank you for coming here tonight and doing that, taking time out of your day to do that. From our conversation, so I stopped by my house afterwards, and then I made a conscious decision to go the other way through 211. And right after turning around and going back out, found myself going back down Mining, and right by your house again without even thinking about it. So it is a kind of a routine deal for a lot of folks to go through there. It's more of a residential area than going down 211. I know a lot of counselors here have children, grandchildren, and kids that are out playing, and it does create a dangerous situation, especially during those drive time commutes in the evening. So it would be nice, I think, if maybe we did investigate a little bit some of these possible solutions. So thank you. I really appreciate you coming and speaking to us today. So, any other items not on the agenda? All right, so moving on to new business, City Council policy on growth. Jordan, you want to kick us off there?
Sure, good evening. Just really brief, this was an action item out of your council retreat, your goal setting retreat, where there was a conversation about some programs that the city and the Urban Renewal Agency does for business growth, and the conversation led to looking at a change to the council's existing policy on growth, and our proposal here was just to strike the line new growth should pay for itself, given that we do have programs that support businesses like our facade improvement program and our tenant improvement program, and the council also discussed at their goal setting retreat forming an economic development committee and focusing new efforts on incentives and other programs that may be possible to encourage growth in our commercial areas in downtown.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. Let's go ahead and kick off some of our discussion. Would anybody like to get us started?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. As I've brought up before, I think I'm just going to bring this up. We can go either way or have more discussion on this. Was just to strike out the first two sentences and just leave the growth as the city council encourages new development that helps meet specific community goals and strengthens the local economy. So I think that refers back to what our community goals are. But so
yeah,
love the discussion.
Councilor Exner.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we have all options open to us. I think there's a lot of options about non-economic that, in terms of money, I think, that need to be looked at, as well as money given to develop businesses and develop new growth. But I think if you just leave the last sentence, I think I'm in favor of that, because it does give us a look at what's going on. The only other thing I might say is that I would like to make sure that we look at all the options rather than maybe going first to money in terms of how we encourage growth. But I do like this last sentence better than I like the whole.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I think to a large extent what this allows us to do is to remove the handcuffs from our city and from our economic development staff. I agree, Councilor Exner. I don't want to see us maybe first go towards financial incentives. I do think financial incentives, though, are an important part to it, but there are others as well. But more importantly, I don't want to see our city not able to go down what could potentially be an exciting path because we've hamstrung decisions of this council and of our city to be able to do so. So, yeah, Councilor Lee.
Yes, this would remove an impediment that we have. And it wouldn't necessarily be the city's money that we're talking about. There's other resources.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Councilor Exner.
Yeah, if you look at the history of Sandy in the last decade or so, there's just been very few commercial businesses that have built buildings. And I think that they're having a additional tool in the toolbox is really crucial, because I think we are in competition really with other cities in this area, and not having maybe the possibility of an economic incentive may be one of those things that's kept us from seeing more of those businesses show up in our city. And I know there's been more city businesses show up in our city, but I'd like to see some buildings that go as well, so I think this will do that.
Well, yeah, and you know, when you consider some of the initiatives we have, you know, we got a lot of older buildings and stuff in our downtown core, and it's hard enough to kind of get a business up and running with a lot of the challenges and hurdles that are kind of put in front just based on kind of where we're at with some of the age and things that of our businesses. So it can really help incentivize that. Any other discussion?
So just in
Yep.
summary, to catch what Jeremy said, to make sure we're all on the same page for this, because I'm ready to make a motion. So in that growth sentence, we would keep the city of Sandy takes a balanced approach towards growth. Strike in general, the city is neutral towards growth.
I'm sorry, my recommendation, what I commented on, would just be to have the sentence, the city council encourages new development that helps meet specific community goals.
So scratch the first two lines. Okay.
Scratch the first two lines. So-
And keeps or strengthens the local economy.
Right, so,
And that'd be my desire as well.
Make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we change the growth statement to being as such. The city council encourages new development that helps meet specific community goals or strengthens the local economy.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second by Councilor Hamlin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, great, moving on. Next item on the agenda. Uh-oh, oh, this is my first vote. It's popping up on my screen here. All right, I'll just click
Just
this.
exit out, yeah.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, to a discussion on the draft of the 2019 City Council goals. Jordan, you're back up.
Right. So again, at your council retreat, which was excellent, by the way, a full day's worth of great conversation and discussion on where the council wants the city to go in the next year. We heard the council discuss and basically focus down on 6 different areas for your goals. And I'll just put a disclaimer in here. This is my attempt at drafting those goals based off minutes from myself and from Carrie and Kim, who was there. No pride of ownership. The purpose of bringing this back to you in a workshop-like setting and as draft goals is so you can make changes, review them, give us feedback, and then we can bring it back at your next meeting or a following meeting to finalize your goals. And also part of that disclaimer, I think we all recognize we sort of ran out of time. There was so much to talk about. We led the discussion off with a conversation about goals that we're currently working on and continuing. And so these goals weren't meant to reflect all that work that is going to continue, because unless you tell us to stop something, we recognize that a lot of that work is valid and still worth pursuing, the things that we were working on. Running out of time meant that perhaps there's a few items that we didn't get a chance to discuss, and I know there's maybe some interest in having a mid-year retreat or sort of a follow-up in 6 months and a more frequent check-in on where we're at in terms of progress with accomplishing your goals. So the purpose again tonight is more of a discussion and feedback to us on how you want us to draft those goals and make sure we are accurately reflecting what you want us to work on. Just to do the overview, I'm not going to read all the goals, but the areas were in transportation, city finances, the Sandy Community Campus project, communications, the comprehensive plan, and then the wastewater facility plan as the key main areas that we will be spending a lot of time on this year.
And then Carrie, for our audience, I believe those goals are in our packets, the agenda packets that were
They are,
out front.
yeah, mhm.
Yep. Okay. That's ready to go. All right. Discussion. I know, Councilor Peetzold, you had.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had one comment, and I was early confused with it in the minutes and not. It doesn't matter. We'll just address it right here. Under the transportation, the implement plans for the extension of 362nd and Bell Street. I know we discussed it at the retreat, but adding Kate Schmidt to that statement, 362nd Bell Street and Kate Schmidt is just the roads that we were going north. So
Well, part of my memory from that, not to disagree, but was to kind of focus that project a little bit on what could actually be kind of feasibly done in the next biennium. And not saying that that couldn't be done, but it would, I think when you start involving the Kate Schmidt portion of that, that starts becoming a much bigger project. So that's just kind of what I remember from it. I'm not opposed to adding that in, but I do remember it seemed to me that there was that we were trying to kind of focus the effort there a little bit.
I know we had that discussion back and forth. I didn't know where we landed on it. I was citing on that side of it. Either way, just didn't want opportunities that might arise in that going north not to be missed, but I don't think they would be anyways, whether they're in the gold or not.
So I think if we could do it, we're going to do it. Yeah.
The way I recall it was that Kate Schmidt was such a fairly easy accomplishment. There wasn't much to do there. It wasn't the horrendous amount of money that might be involved with the extension of 362nd to Bell. So I thought we included Kate Schmidt as well in that conversation, but it was a matter of low-hanging fruit, big desire to get that put together and include that in there. But I do remember that the 362nd and Bell was the high priority. It accomplished so many things. I don't want to repeat that conversation from the goal meeting, but that was also in there.
Is there an appetite to add that into there?
No. No, I think that's how we had prioritized, was that there was just a higher priority with moving forward with the 362nd project, so.
Okay. Any other discussion on the drafts in front of us? Councilor Exner.
Totally different story. I think I really am pleased that we're talking about adding a time to relook at the remaining goals that were maybe not accomplished in the previous biennium. But I look forward to not only doing it with our discussion, but the new candidate too, whoever then would be the new seat, having them involved in that discussion as well. So I would say I'd like to see us move forward on this, but let's reserve it so that we can have that conversation with the new chair.
Councilor Lee?
Yes, I'd like to see us approach some of the work on city finances a little earlier in the process, so we're ready for the budget, like where are we on the urban renewal budget, some of those questions.
Yeah, and on that, we are having in conversations of getting a work session just on the urban renewal plan so that we can get an update on the finances and stuff of that, and even things where is the urban renewal district and what we can use those dollars for, what we cannot use those dollars for. And a portion of that will be when we sit down and talk the future of the community campus as well. Yeah, Councilor.
And I don't think that the numbers on the side of it are a ranking priority. They're just numbers for there.
Right.
They're all, I think, they're just the same. They're just our goals. There's not one above another because they have a number in front of it.
Yep. All right. Pretty good on them for the draft? All right. I don't believe we need to take a vote on that. That's just giving direction for our February 4th meeting, correct? All right. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Was there any changes? Basically, the only item on there is our city council minutes for both the retreat as well as our January 7th meeting. Was there any changes to the consent agenda? All right, is there a motion to adopt?
I make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
So there's been a motion and a second by Councilor Lee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Where are we?
We jump past 9:3.
I jumped.
Well, that's okay.
I jumped.
We can
All
get
right,
some of
that's
the
fine.
business
You
stuff.
guys, I was doing so good on this thing too. I just had, I was trying to catch you. Let's. All right. I think we have a few people in the audience that might have been a little annoyed with that jump. City council candidate interviews. George, why don't you kick us off on the process here?
So we have about, we have 5 candidates to interview tonight. The city council will be asking, I believe there was 6 questions for each candidate. So you manage your time accordingly. You have about, do the math, a couple, 2 to 3 minutes per question. For courtesy to the fellow candidates, we'd prefer, and because it's a public meeting, we can't command, but that if you're not in the room as another counselor is being interviewed, it's also in fairness to the first person who goes doesn't know the questions, but the last person would know them very well. Out of that courtesy, it'd be nice if the other candidates to exit the room.
Wait.
Okay.
You want to throw you out early?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we wish you all luck, and we do thank you for applying for this very important position. It's a great service to the community, and it takes courage just getting to this point, and we appreciate your interest, absolutely. And with that, I think I'll hand it over to the mayor.
Yeah. Do we have a specific order that we're going to start in?
We do.
Okay, so one second. So we're going to give, it's going to be 15 minutes per candidate. We have 7 questions. Six questions. So we're all going to go through and ask a question that basically lends about 2 to 3 minutes per question. Of course, it's up to you how quickly you might want to get through some and give some more time to others. Then at the end, if you'd like, we will ask all of you to return to the room for any questions that you might have for us as a council. Then we will break to a discussion and then votes. With that,
Valerie Wickland would be your first.
All right, Valerie, you're up, and we'll call the rest of you in when it's time. Well, first, Valerie, welcome. Thank you for applying and for your commitment you've shown to our community by even stepping up to do this. A couple words I just wanted to start off with is one is based on time commitment, and really make sure that we're clear on really the extensive time that it takes to be a counselor and a city councilor. A lot of folks think that it's 1 or 2 meetings a month and maybe an occasional retreat or breakout session, and it legitimately is a lot more of a commitment than that. Not only are we meeting a couple of times a month, we all have committee assignments where we're interacting with committee. We're having our one-on-one meetings with the city manager per month. And quite honestly, you look at some of the major projects coming up. We have a wastewater treatment facility. We're going to be looking at the pool in the Sandy Community Campus, where we're talking about possibly having a full day session just on that. And where we used to meet every 2 years to go over our council goals, we're talking about revisiting those up to twice a year, every 6 months. So this really is a commitment and something to kind of be thinking through as we go into this process. With that, I will ask the first question, and then we'll go around and we'll each have one question for you. So on the note that I started with, the city councilor performs a very vital and important role for the community. The time commitment includes several evening meetings a month, reviewing reports and meeting materials, and serving as a liaison to boards and commissions. Are you able to dedicate the time to be successful and effective city councilor?
Oh, I appreciate the question and the clarification of the time commitment.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I wanted to find out with, and I talked to a couple of counselors and gotten some information on that before making my decision, because I wanted to be sure that I could commit the time. I'm retired. I am used to working hard in my prior profession. I like working, and I'm looking for something to which I can dedicate myself with some passion. And I think that this would be a good fit for that, and for my skills and talents and abilities as well. So I wouldn't have any problem making that time commitment.
Oh, great. Thank you. Councilor Hamlin.
Why are you interested in serving as a city councilor for the city of Sandy?
Well, my husband and I moved here a little over a year ago. We love the community. The community has been very welcoming to us. It seems to be still a small town right now, but on the edge of some growth that I think is going to happen within the next 20 years. I think this is a good opportunity to help the city to grow, and I want to give back to my community. My whole life I wanted to, and I've tried to, which isn't all seen on my resume, but I have tried to participate in community organizations that would help people. I haven't always had time because of my career. Now I have time, and I think that Sandy would be a great place for me to focus my time. I really think it's important for citizens to be involved in their government. I think that's what democracy is all about. This is a way for me to get involved in my town, helping, which I believe I can with my skills. As you probably noticed on my resume, I have a quite extensive financial background, process-oriented, looking at business processes, and also time spent in government, state government, not necessarily city government. But I think there would be some transfer of certain skills and things that I could do there. And I'm also, I don't know if I'm varying from the question, but I'm also aware of the demands and specific needs of the small entrepreneur. And I think if Sandy's gonna see growth, they're gonna need to bring small businesses along with them. More small businesses, and as well as helping the businesses that are here to thrive. So I have my own CPA firm. My husband had a construction company, and I helped him with that company doing the bookkeeping and just marketing, and that's not reflected on my resume, but I do have that background in small business.
Great, thank you. Councilor Smallwood.
Yeah. Describe your vision what are the top 3 challenges facing Sandy?
I think I've got to think that the number 1 is the highway we have running through our city. And I don't know what can be done about that. That's state funding that's involved with that. I mean, I'm sure there's more planning that can be done to make crossing 26 easier for pedestrians or local citizens that live here. Maybe a parallel road that the citizens would use, that businesses could go around to get people off 26. That might be a solution. People have mentioned a bypass. I don't know if that's viable or not, but I think that's the main one. Then secondly, I would see growth, and I don't know if that's necessarily a problem, but I believe the city is going to grow. I think it has already grown quite a bit, and I think that growth should be planned, well planned, so we can make the most of this beautiful area we live in. That would include parks. I'm on the Parks Board, so I'm very passionate about having enough green spaces within the city, walking trails, biking trails for people to get around without using their cars. Third might be healthcare. My daughter and my daughter's grown, has a child. We were playing at a local park. Her son hit a hard baseball right into her head. Her head ballooned like this. It was Sunday. I didn't know where to take her. Where do I take my daughter for urgent care? You know, she was fine, but I was a little, uncertain. Where do I take her for urgent care? So I think having a healthcare facility closer, especially 24-hour, would be beneficial.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilor Peetzel.
Yes. Describe your vision for the community. What does Sandy look like in 20 years?
In 20 years, I see that beautiful community center that's been planned, completely developed, and people spending a lot of time there, community activities occurring there, children spending time, in a positive manner there. And I see lots of green spaces, businesses, small businesses, maybe some larger businesses, as has been discussed here, that would draw people to our city and give them jobs, and affordable housing as well. There would be affordable housing to give people a place to live that's affordable.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Exner.
Sure. What has been your civic involvement in the Sandy community?
Well, since moving here a little over a year ago, I became involved with the Parks Board. So I'm involved on the Parks Board. I think that's very important that we have parks. I think this city's done a good job. We have a lot of parks. Some of the features might need some improvement. We need more parks. We have money for parks. So we just need to get a Parks Master Plan in place so that we can get going on that. So what was your question?
What civic work have you done in the community?
Okay, then the second thing I did was get involved in the Oregon Long-Term Ombudsman Program. And what that is it sends volunteers like myself into care homes, retirement facilities, and other places too, to advocate for the residents that live there. So I went to 4.5 days of training to become a long-term ombudsman, took a test, became certified, and now I work at the 2 assisted living facilities here in Sandy. I volunteer at a minimum. I go 4 hours a week to the assisted living facility, knock on doors, find people that are living there that have problems, and try to help them resolve their problems. And this is something I like to do, is to resolve problems. In my career as an auditor, which some of you may not understand what I did. I did audit taxes, but I worked with government to help them with their processes, as well as looking at compliance with laws and rules. So one thing that I was able to do was help them solve problems to make their operations more efficient and come into compliance with laws and rules. So I like to think of myself as a problem solver, and that transfers over really well to the ombudsman work, because I'm able to help the residents solve the problems they may face living in their facilities, or other problems like getting Medicare, not just within the facility, paying their bills. And it's been really good for me, because it's very rewarding when you help people that don't have anybody else to help them. They may not have a family member around them that can help them, and so then I can step in and do that.
That's great. Councilor Lee.
Yes. I should have brought my glasses. In your opinion, what are the most important services the City of Sandy provides the community?
Gotta say that I think the most important service is clean water. If we didn't have clean water to drink, I think everyone would be sick. So I think the most important service is clean water. And following that, definitely, maybe, line with that, would be public safety. So clean water might be considered public safety, but keeping our citizens safe is really very, very important. No one's going to want to live here if it's not a safe place to live.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much. We'll be calling you back in for the kind of the question and answer portion where you get to put the spotlight on us. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
You need a few minutes, or you want me to bring in?
Are we ready to go to the next candidate?
I'm ready.
All right, Carrie, who are we going to be talking to?
Bethany.
Okay.
You may want some water.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Let her know it's a fresh cup.
Jordan, are these guys basically going in the same order that they are on the
This is a
agenda?
fresh- We didn't drink it.
Is
that how it is so far?
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Bethany. Thank you for joining us. Once, thank you for applying for this position, but also thank you for campaigning to be on our council board as well. I think that says a lot and means a lot about your dedication to the city and your willingness to do that. No other candidate before us tonight, did step up and run for the position. So thank you for that. One kind of thing I'm starting off with everybody is just an explanation of, really the time commitment that it really means to be a city councilor. A lot of times individuals think that it's, 1 or 2 meetings a month followed by the occasional work session. And it really is much more than that. Especially we're kind of at a critical time for our city right now, where everything from the Sandy Community Campus project to the wastewater treatment facility, traffic concerns, all those, we're talking about not just having, retreats every 2 years, but literally having them every 6 months. That's an entire day, an entire Saturday. We're going to be looking for the Sandy Community Campus coming up, having a full half day to a full day on the weekend for that as well, to really kind of wrap our minds around the direction and that we're going to go there. And we all have our own committees. Parks Board, I know you have experience there, so we're liaisons to those as well. So it's a lot of time from your personal life, and it's really rewarding. And I think we're all very happy that we did it, but we want to be very clear in kind of the expectations of it. So that will start us off with my question, which is: a city councilor performs a very vital and important role for the community. The time commitment includes several evening meetings a month, reviewing reports and meeting materials, and serving as a liaison to boards and commissions. Are you able to dedicate the time to be successful and effective city councilor? Remember, you have about 15 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes of question, depending on how you like to go. You're up. Go for it.
Thank you. This is a question I have thought of a lot, and it's actually one of the reasons that I originally ran for city council. As I've seen in the past, we have councilor members or people that come on boards and don't realize the level that of time that it requires. And so I, as an individual, do have plenty of time for this. My family is very flexible. I foresee no issues with attending meetings, reading agendas ahead of time, doing any research or additional reading that needs to be done to make sure I'm prepared for what is on the agenda each time we meet. And yeah, like I said, my family is flexible. I've got a really great support system, so I can't foresee any issues with the time requirements.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Hamlin.
Why are you interested in serving as a city councilor for the city of Sandy?
I've been on the Parks Board for almost the last 3 years, and I feel that recently I've been more interested in volunteering further in city government to just continually help to improve the city, especially as we're growing so much right now. This is why I ran in the general election. I'm raising my kids here. We bought our home here. This is where we live. I'm already invested in the community. We're super fortunate to have Lori on council. My loss to her was not painful because she is someone that I am very excited to have represent our city. However, I feel that my nearly 47% of the election votes make me feel like there's still a lot of folks out there that think I could have something good to offer to this council as well. So.
Exactly.
Councilor Smollett.
Yeah. Bethany, what are the top 3 challenges facing Sandy?
I believe that probably for the first one would be growth. We're obviously growing very fast. I've only been here for about 6 years, and even in that time I've seen such a huge amount of growth happening. So I think that's kind of a big challenge that we're facing, but it's also a good opportunity for us to kind of figure out the growing pains associated, as well as making it a better city the bigger that it gets. I think one other thing I've thought of is our business development. The types of businesses that we attract, I think, might be more important even than just the numbers that we're attracting. I think we need to focus more on the types of business and who we're attracting to our city. And then also just maintaining the culture here. I think that myself and a lot of people that live here just love the way that it feels. We have a great culture, and I don't want to lose that just because we're growing so majorly, and I don't think we need to. I think that we can still maintain what we have.
Great. Councilor Piesel.
Describe your vision for the community. What does Sandy look like in 20 years?
20 years. I think that we're going to be a lot bigger. I think in my vision, we will have a more bustling downtown, better shops, restaurants, interesting things to do, more walkability from neighborhood to neighborhood, neighborhood to downtown, an amazing campus, community campus, that people can come together and hang out at and just experience more togetherness.
Okay.
Councilor Exner.
Yes. What has been your civic involvement in the city of Sandy?
So far, I've been on the Parks Board for the past nearly 3 years. And so that's been the main volunteer as far as city business goes.
Okay.
We're also obviously very involved with a lot of things in the community.
Councilor Lee.
Yes, in your opinion, what are the most important services the city of Sandy provides to the community?
To me, I believe that our library services, our community services, my daughter will go to any activity I am willing to drive her to, and so I love seeing those. Every time we get the new schedule, we're very excited to see what we can do. And so we're very involved with that. We also love the bus system and the trolley and transportation that way. Yeah. We're
Well, thank you for your time and again for running. And what we'll do here is we have more interviews, and then we're going to call everybody in and kind of put the spotlight on us so you can ask us some questions.
Sure.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for coming in.
Yeah, you too. So Michael, Mr. Horder, as we talked about earlier, has stepped aside. And so are we on to Mr. Newberry?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Jordan, I love the picture.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Newberry, welcome. Thank you for putting your name in the hat here and stepping forward to apply. It says a lot about your commitment to our community of Sandy, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Wanted to start off, we've been doing this with everyone that comes in, and really kind of taking a second to explain the time commitment to the position of being city councilor. You know, it's a lot of individuals think that it's just a couple of meetings a month, maybe a work session here or two, and it really is a lot more in depth. Not only are you interacting with the community and going to different events, we all have assignments to different committees, parks, and on the Mountain Festival, C4, Oregon Trail School District. So we're we're going to those committees appointments as well. It's a critical time in our kind of for our city right now. Everything from this major Sandy community campus project that's coming up, our traffic concerns, and this wastewater treatment facility that we need to put into place. So we're talking about doing, you know, half day to full day work sessions, occasionally on a Saturday here or there. We just came out of our goal setting retreat, which was an all day Saturday event. We're also looking at spending some real focused time on some sessions like the community campus, where we come together as a council and get public feedback and try to put together a vision for that. That's going to be a big time commitment. So just kind of spelling that out is we're all happy we did it. It's very rewarding, but there is time there. And so really kind of coming into this with, you know, eyes wide open on that. So that kind of leads to my first question. Then we'll go kind of round robin around with different questions. Remember, you have 15 minutes total. That gives you about 2 or 3 minutes a question, depending on how much time you like to focus to any individual question. First up, a city councilor performs a very vital and important role for the community. The time commitment includes several evening meetings a month, reviewing reports and meeting materials, and serving as a liaison to boards and commissions. Are you able to dedicate the time to be successful and effective as a city councilor?
I believe so. And actually, I have quite a bit of experience, you know, with this kind of situation. As a member of the National Guard, I have not just the 2 weeks and the 1 week in a month, but because of my position, I'm constantly in contact with my commander, and we meet 1 to 2 weekends a month when we can. To go over planning and stuff like that. So I completely understand the time commitment and the extra time added on, and I believe I can make that work.
Thank you. Councilor Hamlin.
Why are you interested in serving as a city councilor for the city of Sandy?
Well, when I moved here in 2011, it was a lot different. It was almost kind of like a lazy town kind of feel, real laid back. And then I went on deployment, and I got back, and it just changed. The housing market turned around. Traffic was the thing I noticed right off the bat. So my commute to school got a little longer, and I just noticed that change, and I kind of want to be part of you know, making Sandy better, bringing it into the new Sandy that we're moving towards.
Thank you. Councilor Smallwood.
Yeah. What are the top three challenges facing Sandy?
Traffic, I think, is number one. I think we can all agree on that. growth, and I really don't know the number 3, but I know those are the 2 biggest things. That's a lot what the mayor ran on. I kept up with that, but those are definitely the top 2.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Peetzel.
Yeah, describe your vision for the community. What does Sandy look like in 20 years?
20 years. That's a good question. Hopefully, we can still keep that small town feel. I think that's important to a lot of people that have lived here for a long time. Me growing up in a small town, I know exactly what, you know, that is important. But also, you know, if you don't change with the times, you're gonna get left behind. So just I guess sustained growth, not growing too big, growing at a capacity and a rate that we can handle. So therefore, we don't get too big and kind of reach a point of no return.
Great, thank you. Councilor Exner.
Sure. What has been your civic involvement in the Sandy community?
This is it. This is my first shot. So, but talking to the ladies out there, they mentioned a spot on the Parks Board is open. So when this is over, I'm gonna get with them and see the process of that.
Great.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And Councilor Lee.
Yes. In your opinion, what are the most important services the city of Sandy provides to the community?
Oh, as a father of 2 kids, I think the library is very important. My daughter uses that a lot after school, not just as a place to learn, but a place to meet friends and stuff like that, and also do homework. So that's very important to myself. And then I think public transportation for such a small area, I believe we offer a great public transportation system, not seen in a lot of small towns.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for your time here. The way we're doing this is we're going to continue interviewing candidates, and then at the end of our interview process, we're going to call everybody back in and kind of put the spotlight on us with you having an opportunity to ask us some questions. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So you guys, I think we're getting a little confusing with the water situation up there. Like, maybe
Well, he brought his in.
Nobody's
Nobody
good.
used
We
this,
like
but-
that's the water. Anyone.
Yeah.
Started the test.
Yeah, right.
If they get choked up, I'll come out.
To do it with a ladle.
Oh, good
He'll
for
throw
you.
himself.
He'll just put it in the trough.
Is next candidate Mayor Malone?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Good picture of the water.
Well, welcome, Mayor Malone. Appreciate you showing up here this evening and putting your name in. Yeah, well, I used to, right behind you over here. It's kind of exciting. Well, first, thank you for again, kind of putting your name out and stepping forward to serve your community. I have no idea the direction that it's going to go here for you here this evening, but whether it's your next chapter in public service or not, I don't think that says anything about other than just thank you for all of your past service.
I've made 4 new friends.
4 new friends, and
We're exchanging recipes, and
well, that's
in my bags I'm getting.
well, that's great. I think a lot of the interest, quite honestly, with people wanting to get involved in the communities because Sandy's a wonderful place, and you were a major part in making that happen. So thank you for your past service. I'm supposed to go into the duties and responsibilities and the time commitment of serving on council. I think you're quite aware of that, and if anything, you view it as the minimum requirements of involvement. So we continue to be active with our meetings and work sessions, and we're looking at having several more goal planning retreats. I know that you're well aware of, the wastewater treatment facility issues and Sandy Community Campus and our traffic and all that. And so these are all major projects we're looking at dedicating Saturdays and stuff to possibly having, full discussions and work sessions on. So it's going to be a big time commitment. With that, I'll ask the first question. City councilor performs a very vital and important role for the community. The time commitment includes several evening meetings a month, reviewing reports and meeting materials, and serving as a liaison to boards and commissions. Are you able to dedicate the time to be a successful and effective city councilor?
Well, in my previous incarnation as a city councilor, I was working 60 hours a week at the post office in Gresham and did not miss a meeting. I am now retired and have a lot more time on my hands than I had at that time, so I don't see any impediments to me being able to dedicate as much time as is necessary to be an effective and positive member of the team in that effort of long-range planning, short-range, and daily business for the council. I used to say when I was on the planning commission, there were members who showed up with virgin packets that had not been cracked, and there were members who showed up who had copious notes all over their packets and have gone through them with little Post-it sticking out. I don't think you need all of either one of those kinds, but I think as long as I'm willing to put the time in and try to be helpful, I think I would handle the time commitment very easily in my current retired state.
Great, thank you. Councilor Hamlin.
Why are you interested in serving as a city councilor for the city of Sandy?
Well, I have had previously, 8 years ago, 22 years experience dedicating my time to the city of Sandy, and I am very vested in the success of the Sandy community moving forward. And I found that with this 2-year opening for Olga Gerbersi, I wish I was Hispanic because I think that was perfect, but to fill that position with someone who is already sort of up to speed and will be able to hit the ground running for all of the ambitious and active endeavors that our new mayor wants to do. I think I have a lot to give back to the community now that I'm retired and have the time to do so. And I have a certain amount of institutional memory and contacts through the years with, I'm following the line of Charlotte Leeham, who used to be the mayor of Wilsonville and is now a city councilor there.
Right.
So kind of putting my experience and expertise to work for a community that I love is the main reason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Smallwood.
Yeah. What are the top 3 challenges facing Sandy?
Well, obviously growth, but with the state of property rights and land use, there's not a whole lot you can do to prevent people from utilizing their property rights and growing. So growth is a challenge, but thoughtful planning and goal setting helps to alleviate that challenge of the growth and try and direct it where you want it to happen. Probably another thing that is spurred from that that's a big challenge for Sandy is traffic. And I know they've done studies in the past about bypasses and other such things, and I think we are due for another one because it's been at least 18, 20 years since they did the last one. But as a council, my thing for that challenge of traffic would be to try and find alternatives, at least for the local people, because I don't think, until we hit a population threshold of somewhere between 15 and 20,000, I think you would get a lot of pushback from your local business community. So you need to find alternatives in the meantime to, pending study and the feasibility and funding by the state. You need to find north-south and east-west links outside of the downtown corridor for locals. And then the third one would probably be community involvement and getting people aware of what you're doing as a council so that you get buy-in from them prior to having stuff that you want to accomplish. That if they know what's going on and feel vested in what your decisions are, then you're going to have them as a cooperating member instead of as someone showing up when something happens in their community that they were unaware of and telling you all the reasons why you shouldn't do what you've been planning and that they were unaware of.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, Councilor Peetsvold.
All right, it's my favorite question. Describe your vision for the community. What does Sandy look like in 20 years?
Well, in 20 years, with our current growth rate, we would probably hit that threshold of requiring a bypass. The challenge at that time will be, can we afford to buy the land that's necessary for the bypass? The city would pretty much look like a larger version of what it currently is. A thriving community with a vibrant downtown. Preferably with the bypass, we would have a vibrant, walkable downtown. It's walkable now for the brave, but one that would have no vacancies. It would be full of businesses that people could go to, a booming park system, and a school system that was meeting the needs of all of the citizens of Sandy, and activities and events that would bring people to our community to show off what we have and to make people that live here really proud. As I think most of the people that live here now are proud of their community and what it offers. A lot more than what other cities our similar size offer. I mean, we're like the little city that thinks big. We have a tagline before that, Sandy, a bit beyond boring, or a little beyond boring, because we offer things, and we think big. We started the Sandy Net, we started the bus, opted out of TriMet and had the bus service, and I think we will continue to make those strides beyond our size and as we grow into that size.
Great, thank you. Councilor Exner.
Yeah, let me just ask it. What has been your civic involvement in the Sandy community?
In the last 8 years, I've been watching you
I'd ask.
semi-religiously online. I don't come to very many council meetings anymore because, frankly, since I've been retired, it's past my bedtime when you guys get done here. But I have been following it, and prior to that, like I say, you saw on the thing. I started off, I came in when Sue was the planning director here, and I volunteered. They were doing a historic review of all the buildings in town and seeing which ones should be put on the register. I think we only have the yoga studio downtown. It's the only one that's actually on the National Register. So I started off doing that, and then I was on the Parks Board, and then I got volunteered to apply by Mark Mullins, the previous mayor. He was my chiropractor, and he told me there was a spot on the Planning Commission, so I went on the Planning Commission, and actually that was partly because we bought our house, and I was complaining to him about the fact that the 4 acres of trees right behind our house that we had just bought were all cut down. And he said, we don't have a tree ordinance, but we have an opening on our planning commission. So I went on the planning commission, and then one of the city councilors was having heart trouble, and he came and asked if I would run for his seat for city council, and I did. And at a pancake breakfast, I was going to lean over and tell the mayor that I wasn't going to run for re-election, and he leaned over and said he was leaving his mayor's position before his term was up, and he was going to suggest that I be appointed for his last 6 months, which I subsequently was, and then
did that for a little while.
17 years, 16, give or take. So, but like I say, it was a wonderful ride, and I enjoyed it. And if it had been a disagreeable situation, I probably wouldn't be before you right now, because I wouldn't want to come back into it. But I do feel like my services and my talents could be put to use for the remainder of the term to help the city through the transition.
Thank you. Counselor Lee.
Yes. In your opinion, what are the most important services the city of Sandy provides to the community?
Well, probably the main ones that people take for granted that are very important are, water, sewer, streets, lights, all the boring stuff that people only complain about when it's malfunctioning. You don't get accolades going, my water tasted great this morning. You don't get the positive feedback from those things that are so vitally important. And you also sometimes get the negative feedback when something screws up with the school district, because they assume that we're all part of the same governmental entity. And you'll get calls in the middle of the night saying, the light is out in front of my house. Can you come out and fix it? So obviously the infrastructure is one of the most vital things the city provides. But beyond that, the things that people do notice and cling to are things that we offer in the way of, you'll get people that'll be strident about our park system. We've got, I think, 17 pocket parks and big parks, and from when Stan was little, we had Mining Park and Bluff Overlook, and we just added parks over the years to that. So the things that add to people's quality of life, which is the park system, the activities in the summer, our library. I went to the library and picked up a couple of books I had on hold before I came tonight. So between our fire department, which is not part of the city either, but people assume so, the police department, the library, those civic structures, civic places where people, where when you want to reach out to people and let them know what you're doing, those are the places you need to go and put information, because that's where people gather. And I consider the library kind of the heart of the community, because that's where people go with their kids and elderly people. I mean, it's a community hub. So those kind of structures, and then the bus system, which for those of you who don't use it, but if you get the same, I don't know if they still do it, but some of the best feedback I got when we first put our bus system in would make me cry, because people would send you things saying, thank goodness for this bus system, because now I can go visit my grandkids in Gresham, I don't drive anymore, or thanks to this bus system I can get a job and help my mom out with the bills. You get a few of those and you start thinking, ooh, that was more than just opting out of TriMet. That was adding to the quality and the livability of our city for the citizens that need it or want it. And I think it might be one of the solutions to, if we can market it correctly, it might be one of the solutions to our traffic problem in the downtown, or at least a small alleviation of it. I used to tell people, because when I worked at the post office, I would frequently take the bus, because I could get on the bus at the corner of Bluff and Highway 26 and at 7 o'clock and be clocking in at the post office in Gresham at 7:25. And that was with having to walk 3 blocks, because where it dropped me off was 3 blocks from the post office. So it's, people don't realize that it's such an express bus once you leave the city limits. It's great for the interior thing with the trolley and all that, but it needs to be made aware to the citizens that it's not this thing where, when I first moved here, you got on the bus and you were lucky to get to Gresham an hour and a half later, because we had buses, 2 of them at 6:30 in the morning, 6:30 and 6:37, and then it came back in the afternoon at 4 and 4:15. No buses in between. So it was hard to commit to taking the bus, knowing that it was going to take 3 hours out of the day. Guy has an appointment at the VA. He's going to get on the bus here in Sandy for a 10 o'clock appointment at 6:30 in the morning and not be able to come back until 4:30 in the afternoon. So that's one of the great things I think we have here.
Well, thank you. We're right at time, but it was perfect. It takes quite the skill to maximize the time exactly, and that was the last question. So, yeah. So thank you. So
Yes, thank you.
we have we have more candidates, correct?
One more.
And so we're gonna go through that, and then we're gonna invite everybody back in for put us on the pressure cooker. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Desiree left.
Desiree's next, everybody. Gary Brewer's one of the ones that stepped out. Welcome, Desiree. Oh, we'll let you get your water here. So I've been kind of starting this off with a little bit of an explanation of the time commitment it is to be a city councilor. A lot of individuals think it's just a couple of council meetings a month, maybe a work session here or there, and it really is quite more extensive than that. You know, we have this critical time in our kind of community's history. We have this major community campus project coming up, major traffic concerns. We have a wastewater treatment facility that we need to look at. So we're looking at not just having these meetings, but there will be a Saturday here and there where we're dedicating, you know, half of the day to a full day. We just got out of our goal setting retreat, which took up an extensive amount of time from early in the morning until, I don't think we got out of there till about 6 o'clock in the evening. So big commitment. We're also interfacing with the community a lot, and all of us serve as a liaison to different committees, like the Parks Committee, for example, and we're attending those. So, you know, just always kind of eyes wide open to be prepared and ready. You know, I start off with that, but I also remind people this is incredibly rewarding as well. You know, the one neat part about local service like this is you can really feel the difference that you make, so it's definitely worth it. So thank you for putting your name forward to do this. So
mentioning it, I wouldn't have any idea that it was even open. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, good job. So the way this is going to work is we each have a question for you. You have 15 minutes of time. That allows for about 2 to 3 minutes per question, but you can, of course, take as much or as little time, but we're not going to go further than the 15 minutes allotted. Okay. With that, I'll ask the first question. A city councilor performs a very vital and important role for the community. The time commitment includes several evening meetings a month, reviewing reports and meeting materials, and serving as a liaison to boards and commissions. Are you able to dedicate the time to be a successful and effective city councilor? You're up.
That's an excellent question, actually. I had no idea what the time commitments were, but that is a reasonable time commitment for me. I'm effectively retired. I sub as an education assistant in the Oregon Trail School District. When I was in Missouri, I ran a retirement community, and I just decided that working 60 hours a week probably wasn't what I should be doing anymore, and I want to enjoy life a little more. But I do find myself having plenty of time, and being able to give back to the city of Sandy would be a great way to spend some time.
Okay. Well, thank you. Councilor Hamlin.
Why are you interested in serving as a city councilor for the city of Sandy?
My main reason is really that I just have a passion for the city of Sandy, and I love serving others. And so I think I can really put those things to good use, learn more about some of the critical things that are going on behind the scenes with the city of Sandy, and help in any way I can with those things. I do like to dot the I's and cross the T's. I'm a very detail-oriented person, so helping with policy creation and implementation, helping with creating rules and guidelines, those sorts of things would certainly be something I consider fun, which most people probably don't. But also being out and about and just seeing what concerns people have and how we can best impact that. What programs can we put in place to fix things that need to be fixed? And how do we put out there all the great things that we're already doing so that we get the recognition and the happiness of the folks for the things that are already out there that are running really very smoothly already. So.
Thank you. Councilor Smollett.
Yeah. What are the top 3 challenges facing Sandy?
Top 3 challenges. Oh, well, I suppose traffic. I'll let most folks can do about that. But it's getting bigger, and especially with going up and down the mountain, those are the biggest towns. So traffic's probably the biggest. It's one of the fastest growing cities in all of Oregon, so whenever there's strong growth, there's going to be challenges with that. So being able to figure out how to best accommodate that growth and still keep it with the great small town feel that it has would be a big challenge for Sandy, I would say. And I see another one of the challenges as a lot of the businesses struggling a little bit, and being able to keep that front, the nice Sandy look to them, and be able to drive the customer base that they need for the people who are just passing through town as opposed to stopping in town. Just being able to keep those businesses strong.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Pietzel.
Describe your vision for the community. What does Sandy look like in 20 years?
20 years with Sandy. Well, I would say 20 years from now, we'll probably have about 20,000 people, so it'll be it'll be much bigger. But I still would like for it to have that small town feel to it, and I would like for it to have the natural woodsy look that it has with the building structures, and the friendly feel that we have to it as well. I think we sometimes when cities grow really fast, they become more commercialized, and you lose that touch of home. And so I would like to see Sandy full of parks and life and vibrancy and just still a lot of beauty.
Great, thank you. Counselor Exner.
Sure. What has been your civic involvement in the Sandy community?
So my civic involvement it has been probably pretty limited compared to the folks that you've had in here so far. I know they're very busy with things. So I've been in Sandy. I moved back here about a year and a half ago. Grew up was born in Portland, raised in Troutdale, and then lived out of state for the rest of my adult life. So I've only been in Sandy about a year and a half. My biggest thing is I like to, from a civic perspective, my drive, one of my drives is making sure people vote. So one of the things when we were going through voting season is just encouraging anybody and everybody to take that time, and on Facebook and in person, and you hear people complaining about XYZ, and like, great, you have this wonderful opportunity to fix that right now. Figure out who stands for what's important to you and take the time to vote. And so I'm really driving for that. Also volunteer opportunities. I do a lot of volunteering at the schools as well. Not in Sandy, but with the Department of Human Services, I've done some volunteering as an office buddy where they have kids who are in the foster care program. They've been pulled from home, and they're sitting in an office for 5 or 6 hours waiting for another family to come take them home, and they need someone to engage with them and to make it not such a difficult experience for them. So I'd like to volunteer for that as well.
Great, thank you. Counselor Lee.
Yes, in your opinion, what are the most important services that the city of Sandy provides to the community?
Okay. Well, the services that we've enjoyed, obviously, are the amazing parks. That's one of my favorite features. There are many of those. We have the trolley system, which is a great service, I think, for folks. Helps with kids. I love that. I know that my child doesn't have to walk from one place to another on a rainy day like today. They can arrange to be on that instead, which is very nice. And I like the community involvement services that are available, all the great opportunities that we have out there for folks like me and you to really participate and enjoy being a part of a community overall.
Well, great. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to, I usually send you out, but we're going to call the rest of the candidates in and kind of put us under the pressure cooker and answer some of your questions. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so my plan is just to have do the Q&A and then probably adjourn, break for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and kind of open up for discussion. Was there any thoughts on how long we should allow this to go for? 10 minutes?
Yeah. I don't think it'll go very long.
I don't think it will either.
It might not go at all.
Right, yeah, right.
There's always some, I'm sure.
Well, welcome back. Oh, that's usually me, so. Well, welcome back, and again, as we expressed to all of you when you came up here, thank you for stepping up for your community and putting your name forward. After our dialogue, I feel like there's kind of eyes wide open on the time commitment, and yet nobody turned around and sprinted out the door. So thank you. Really appreciate that, and I think we all owe you, everyone here in Sandy, quite honestly, owes you a debt of gratitude for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. With that, so this is kind of an opportunity for you, if you have any questions for us as a council, on the responsibilities of being a counselor, or goals, or how we like to work, scheduling, anything that might be something, nothing's too large or too small to ask. This is gonna, as we talked about when each of you came in here, it's a major time commitment. So if you have any questions, don't go home with those. Feel free to step up and ask away. So the floor is any one of yours, whoever would like to ask. Yeah, go ahead, Valerie. Please do. Yeah, come up. Yeah.
So, I believe that people make mistakes. People don't always do their best work, including me. So I'm wondering, if I were a counselor, how would my performance be evaluated? How would I get feedback? Is that something that's done annually?
Jen said the election.
Yeah. Would anyone like to take that on first?
A little bit.
We'll go here, Councilor Peetzel.
Yeah. I think we give each other feedbacks. I think you would see that in just our dialogue of that. I think we all have different personalities and different ways of looking at things, and I think that's what makes our democratic process work. That we're all the same people with same ideas, but we all have different ideas, and so we have different approaches to how that goes through. I think it's the mayor's responsibility to keep us on track during the meetings and that type of thing. But there's not an evaluation yearly or anything like that, but what I've seen other people do is just, console with the other people afterwards, especially if you're newer, just just to get the ropes.
Right. Councilor Exner.
Yeah, a couple things. One is, as an individual, I personally don't have a whole lot of authority, and don't have a lot of ability to do much, but one of the evaluations I have is if I can convince 3 other people on this council during those discussions that my opinion is something that they could consider. That to me is one of the things I use to evaluate myself. And so getting points across, getting good discussion, getting good ideas out in front of folks, being able to talk some folks into it. And once you get a majority of 4 people typically, it's really, you see things happen, and really there's a very powerful thing in that. We do have some requirements that you show up and that you are participating in both the committees and the council, and I think that's one of the few areas that we really do hold pretty strong in terms of our participation. So certainly being actively done, being here, committees, other activities that happen throughout the city, and just talking with different citizens and such is really crucial too. But like Jeremy was saying, that it's really not any evaluation of them. Maybe get elected or re-elected, not re-elected maybe, and that's it for me.
I always kind of comment on the end of our candidate forum that we had. I tease Councilor Peetzel. He ended it with, "Whoever wins, just please show up." And and in showing up, those more than just showing up and sitting down in the seat here and coming to the meeting. I for one really want to hear what you have to say. We work very collaboratively, and we all try to build consensus and move forward, but not to be afraid to disagree, and to really kind of step up. And we're choosing the person we choose is because we really value both you and your feedback and who you are and what you represent. And we want to hear that. And if you disagree with the direction that we're going, we ask you to do that in a respectful manner, but disagree and debate. Because I think, especially with where we're at here as a community, groupthink is a true enemy of, I think, success for us. We need to be able to kind of collaboratively talk and debate, do it in a respectful manner, and try to build consensus, but not just try to build consensus by maybe biting our lip and not speaking up. That's the last thing that we would want. So, yeah.
And is there any prohibition on speaking among each other outside of this chamber?
Yes, I think Councilor Exner and I can. We just went to an all-day session on ethics training and stuff through the League of Oregon Cities. One is two items. One is we got to be very careful of quorum when we are talking. So quorum can happen in a couple of different facets. One is obviously if four of us are standing around and talking about business, city business. That is a quorum, and we have public records laws that we have to abide by for good reason. So a lot of the times if you see us out and about, we're not supposed to be talking about city business. We're supposed to be talking about kids and families and things like that. The other item, though, on quorum is it's not just when four of us are together. When we are having our individual conversations back and forth, we got to be very careful when representing other councilors' views and opinions, because that also is called a serial quorum, where you are trying to build consensus and bring everybody together. All of that is really important transparently to do that kind of in the public eye. Something else to be aware of is, so I have a notepad here with dates on it, start date and an end date. All our notes here are public record that are allowed under public records requests to be able to go out into the public. Same with our emails and stuff like that. So it is something to be very aware of, absolutely. Yeah.
The League of Oregon Cities would be so proud.
We'll let you teach it next time.
Yeah, right.
But it also doesn't mean that we can't occupy the same space. So I think sometimes the quorum piece is like, oh, we got too many people standing around, and we may not even be talking about city business. And so it doesn't mean we can't be around each other. And I think that's
talk city business.
Right. But dialogue is very important, and one-on-one dialogue is very important, and we do encourage that. But we've just got to be careful to only be representing our personal views and not be relaying that information back among other counselors. But it is very important to be having ongoing and constant conversation and being engaged between the council meetings, not just at the meetings, if that makes sense.
As long as it's less than 4 people together, then that's okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it's a learning process too.
Yep.
I mean, I'm 5 years and 2 days to the day of swearing into this seat, and I'm sitting here, and Lois was here before, and I'm like, do I hit the button to talk, or do I talk? I mean, it's just like a blur. All of a sudden, you're in the seat,
right.
And then there's so many things. It's like you don't know, and I mean, it's not like anything you're going to get arrested for next week if you make a mistake. You learn from the mistake too. So
Right.
it's but it's the you continue to make the mistakes, you might get yourself in a little trouble.
So what about the individual counselor's liability? Do you have individual liability, and is there insurance?
Yes. So, well, can I take this one? Yeah. That's what
I don't know if you're qualified.
Yeah.
Is this your pace?
yeah. Right. Well, so we do have, through city and county insurance services, we do have an insurance policy that not only covers our liability as a behalf of the city as well as our properties, but we also have what's referred to as directors and officers insurance, and so that covers us for our personal liability. That said, though, it's like when our quorum and different rules, we are supposed to abide among certain ethics, rules, and regulations. So insurance only covers you as long as you're not purposely trying to break the law, right? And so obviously if you kind of screw up, that's why we have insurance. But it's not there to be a fall-safe for not doing best business practices. But yes, we do have insurance that covers us.
Great, thank you.
Great.
I might add
Yeah,
to that.
absolutely.
There's also a state law for volunteer board members, so long as you do not perform intentional negligence and the insurance coverage helps, then you're in good shape.
Thank you. Sir, was there a question back here?
Oh, no, I was.
Oh, yeah. Great. Any other questions? Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was hoping you could share with us what you envision as a strong leadership position for your next councilman. What are you hoping to see from them when you're in the role?
I'll start. Someone that shows up. But beyond that, just showing up. That was a statement, for because I've been on this council the longest and participate in so many things and seeing in past experience that people might like to have the title or the position, but then don't realize the time commitments. But it's also being engaging. Because that's another thing is, having someone just sit in a seat to be a warm body is not engaging, and so it doesn't doesn't do our citizens in Sandy any benefit for having just a warm body in a seat. So being engaging in the conversation, let us know what the thoughts are going on, and the ideas, and that type of thing. So that would be part of it.
Okay, I'll take two. One of the things that I find about Sandy's council is that we are a team, and we do want the best for Sandy. We don't always agree with each other. One of the things that I've learned over the few years here is that even if I disagree and I vote against the majority, once that vote is completed, I'm on the team. I'm leading the charge, as it were, of whatever the majority wants. I think that's really crucial about the style of Sandy, and that we are not dysfunctional. We're not at odds with each other. We don't always agree, but once we do come to a conclusion, that we do move forward on that same area. And so I think that's really important for us. I guess it's maybe the Sandy style that I like so much about this one, is I don't end up fighting. Most of the times we agree anyway, but even when we disagree, we agree about it. So that would be something for me.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would just say, we do have, as many of you touched on your interview questions, some dynamic challenges that are facing us due to growth and various things like that. So, kind of touching on what Councilor Exner was saying, is just somebody that's going to be a good collaborator and coworker, basically.
Yeah.
And I think I covered a lot of it. The only other thing I'd add is to be outbound, get into the community, seek that feedback, and bring it forward to us. I think all of us have different backgrounds, and one of the more interesting questions is the important city services. That kind of a lot of the answers I think we heard back reflects a lot of your life experiences and your interactions with the city. And so those are very important, and the circles, your circles of influence and the people you're around, to really be engaging and have an open ear and be bringing those to us as council. Because we had an individual, it was great, complained on Facebook, met me for coffee, and showed up and testified here tonight, right? And that was wonderful. But that doesn't, that's the exception, not the rule. And so we've really kind of got to work overtime to go and get that community feedback, and so that'd be something that we'd be really hoping to see. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Well, again, thank you for your time this evening. We're going to take a short 5-minute break. Well, let's make 5-minute break. Let's get back here at 8:35. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Appreciate it.
Because 3 of these people
Okay, blind ballot. Counselor Exner?
I'm conscious of what Jan has said that about blind and knowing that it would be easy that way, but I think two things come to my mind. One is I suspect that if they aren't selected, they would like to know why. That would be, they put a lot of effort and energy in here, and I really appreciate all the work. And quite frankly, I was looking at my lists and having a struggle because they are such good candidates in so many different ways. But I think it does help to have some little discussion, at least kind of get an idea where folks are thinking. So I would say yes.
I love these discussions of the discussion. Yeah, Counselor
No,
Smallwood?
I didn't have anything, nope, I'm just.
All right.
I feel like it's like Parks and Rec.
That's right. Counselor Fietzel?
Okay.
Thoughts? Counselor Hamlin?
I think to that point, maybe what we could do is if individuals want feedback, we can find a mechanism to do that rather than you're sitting here right with everybody else who say, we didn't like this thing. So I think it'd probably be most appropriate to allow an opportunity for folks to ask that on the back end.
Okay. So do we want to have discussion on the candidates, or do we want to go forward on a vote?
Vote.
Vote.
Overall conversation, I got a couple things,
Yeah.
not specific to a person, but more.
Floor is yours.
I think it's important for us to think about what this empty spot will help us in terms of the next, it's 2 years, right? That we're left over for this candidate? I forget the number of years. Is it 2 years left over?
Carrie, is that?
2 years.
Do you think?
Yeah, I gotta look at Karen.
Okay, either way,
Okay.
she can come in a second, but I think it is important for us to think about how, if there is any empty spots, any areas that we don't seem to cover very well, things that will help us to move forward on. And I think we've got such great candidates here that I think a number of them perform some of those different gaps. So I would encourage all of us to think about how that would fit, not just maybe the most skilled, most experienced, freshest voice, whatever that might be, but something that would really fill our an empty spot, besides the fact that I'm feeling lonely over here, having somebody on my left.
Yeah.
So that's all I really
They
have to
keep
say.
leaving too, so you need somebody that's going to stay.
I take a shower every single day, really.
You can ask for a
Really, I
different
do.
seat.
Ask Jan.
Well, I think that we once we got some just a great group of candidates. It was a little remarkable about how shared vision a lot of them were. We have a variety of backgrounds, and I believe that all have thought through kind of the time commitment and stuff that it takes to be on council. So with that, I guess I would say let's go ahead and go through this first rating system. And then we'll hand over to Carrie to kind of do a tabulation for us. Now, are we expecting, will this be the final result, or are we looking to narrow these down to two for a discussion? Or are we thinking that when that results come back that this will be our decision?
I think if there's,
there's a clear.
Let's see
if there's a clear
how
way,
the
if there's 4
Yeah.
votes for number 1, then.
Okay. All right, get
So
those
you
pins
can
ready.
add up all the numbers and
So
lowest point total. if
Let's
there's a
make that
separation.
clarification, so
Okay.
there isn't a debate back and forth whether,
Yes.
is it gonna be
So
the
you'll
top
add up all the
or-
numbers. Whoever has the lowest score would be the leading candidate. If we have 2 people with the same lowest score, we'd go to a revote, make a decision from there.
One isn't the highest then?
No.
Well,
One
yeah.
is
Well, one is the highest, but
if
if
you
you
add
think
up all the
about when
ones,
you're
you'd
adding up
have
the
a
ones, that's going to be the
6.
lowest score.
So if
Right.
everybody's the same on
It's
one person.
inverse.
Stan likes
I
golf,
see
and this
what
is just
you're
like
talking
golf.
Yes, exactly. Problem is that I'm always the highest score in golf. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, does that
1
make
is the
sense?
best, 7 is the lowest, okay.
5 is the
5 is the lowest, probably, yeah, right.
That was quick. I did my homework before the break.
Good
So I can go
grief.
get a cookie.
Priorities.
Do you need names on them? You don't, do you? A Cookie Monster just got out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
Just, Gordon, the swearing in would happen at the next meeting, or yeah, it would happen tonight, right? Okay. Yep, he's our cookie
Well,
monster.
he's serious about his cookies.
I don't know on this one. It was in a package. Clamshell. Fred Myers.
So, is it 1 or a 7?
They're
Cookies?
still good, huh?
So it must be a 6 or
Do we have
something.
ballots?
Not nearly as good as my wife's cookies.
Now, you put my
For
wife
the,
in
for the record, sweetie.
She's watching right now, I'm sure.
Not as good as my wife, maybe.
He's gotta get that.
That's how I
get that
communicate
in.
my love through city council meetings.
I'm embarrassed.
Because you don't see her because you're here all the time.
Yeah.
She actually does make really good cookies. She has this recipe. It's the world's greatest chocolate chip cookie.
We're gonna talk about favorite
That's actually
desserts.
the name of the recipe. Is the world's greatest
Is
chocolate
that
chip
right?
cookie.
German chocolate cake with chocolate ice cream. That's it. Really moist.
That's right.
Oh, man.
My mom's birthday, I'm gonna have to go to that place, what, Southwest with the German
Yeah, it's the
chocolate?
cake shop.
That's right.
Yep, gotta go there. At least once or twice a year.
I like key lime pie.
It's one thing we don't have in town,
Favorite.
is bakery.
Tollgate.
Oh, right, right. I was thinking of the, you know, special cakes and all that sort of thing. They have some
They
things.
actually have quite a few there.
Yeah.
I buy cake sticks fairly often, especially if I get a big cake for my birthday, for her birthday, not my birthday.
So they make sheet cakes too.
You guys just started to look like
You know,
the
I don't
Florida
know.
elections.
Right. Just don't let Putin anywhere near it.
That's right. Close down the electronics.
There's no collusion.
I was trying not to put any chads on my side of my paper there. The computer's gonna fail.
Will the winner please demand a recount? It'd be such good newspaper stuff. It'd feel like a whole page. Somebody pumping their fist in the air. It's awesome.
Stuff here, there's never like the, I need to go home or I have to stop immediately because somebody's competing with me for this story.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, thanks.
it's probably already on Facebook though, I suppose. It will be in before we're done here.
The winner does need to do a speech at the next city council meeting. If you saw Stan's speech, that's what, at the last one, you got.
Are we swearing in tonight too?
No.
No? Okay.
You were getting a cookie when I asked that question.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna make them do committee reports, whole deal.
I swore in and sat in the city council
did?
meeting the same night, yeah.
We needed you.
And we learned from that.
I don't think you,
No, we
you
needed
couldn't
you.
do any
We
votes.
I've become a pal of John over here.
You just call me by my
You've
name.
lost people.
I did.
Not that
Lost
guy.
people on both sides of you.
I have.
Right.
I'm not sure what that means. Well, Jeremy's had a couple that, well, one that got left too, so.
Oh, right.
Was
He
that?
did something to Lois when, to make her quit.
And
Actually, when I
also-
started, Lois wasn't there. There was someone else there. They
You were there longer than she
Beaverton.
was.
Yeah, no, she was appointed.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a clear.
Do you ever see Lois in town?
We have, all right,
Quite often.
everybody, it looks like we have some results. Go ahead.
So, tallying up, as the order prescribed, we have Bethany Schultz as number 1, and then Valerie Wickman as number 2.
Oh, wow.
And a clear, with the lowest score, with 11 total, was Bethany Schultz.
Wow.
So she was quite a bit above the second person, is that right? So we're not close?
No, very close.
Oh, very close.
11 total points, again, with the lowest score being in favor. And then the second was Valerie Wickland with 12 total.
So this is a 1 point
It's a 1 point.
difference, all right.
Where's that yelling? No.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Did you get 47% of the No, just
Well,
doing.
yeah, well, congratulations, Bethany, and then let me just sincerely, again, thank all of you for coming here tonight and putting your name forward and kind of standing there under the gauntlet of questions. And we have, I was up for a city council position years ago, and they really ended up picking this horrific candidate by the name of Councilor John Amlin. And they said this to me, and I kind of rolled my eyes, and I wish I hadn't rolled my eyes at it, which is there's a lot of positions on committees and stuff to be active here in our community. It was mentioned, a couple of you mentioned parks, and I hope you really do maybe look at different ways of getting involved. And on a more other note is I hope to see your names on a ballot here in the next couple of years, because I think all of you have a lot to add to our community. So thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We had an amazing pool.
Yes, excellent, yeah. And I would like to offer anybody that would like to ask what that looked like, why we didn't get voted or something. I could certainly, I don't know if the rest of the council would like to do that too, but
yeah,
there's ways to improve yourself and all that. So be certainly open if you wanted to ask, and I'd be giving you.
Yeah.
Let's do it privately, but let's do that.
Let's go at it.
So maybe we could have them reach out to Jordan.
Yeah.
If they're interested in feedback, and then we can coordinate feedback. Sure.
Absolutely.
I think these are notes you turned in too, don't they?
Yep, they will. Yep, yeah, correct.
After the meeting, I think we'll.
Why don't we handle that after the meeting?
Yeah, and then also after the meeting, we probably need to know whose
we should
ballot is whose.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. All right. Next item on the agenda, since the mayor decided to, go straight to the consent agenda earlier, is city manager report. Jordan.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. Getting into the swing of things, having a great time. I've enjoyed the one-on-one meetings I've had with city councilors. I'm enjoying meeting staff, and to that end, a few weeks ago we had our employee recognition party. It's good to see a couple of city councilors and the mayor there as well. Had an excellent time, and it's something nice that we can do, if not every year, at least every other year, to recognize our employees for all their hard work and treat them to dinner and have a good time. So it's good to see folks there, and also have a nice send-off for Kim, previous city manager. So it was a good evening. There's a busy time of year for us. We're kicking off the budget process internally here at the end of the month, so there's a lot of work behind the scenes. Tyler and myself, and then the department heads will join in on the fun as we develop the budget. It is a council goal to be plugged into city finances, and so we're putting together a calendar and a plan for making sure that we have your high level priorities in mind as we develop the budget, and some of those council goals as well. My plan is to continue the monthly reports that the department heads have been putting together. They do that on a monthly basis, and I've sent a little ping their way to have them keep those updated. And then once I kind of get settled and get the lay of the land, I will restart the weekly updates too for the city and for the city council. So things being in the work as I get my feet wet and learn more. And like I said, I've been having a good time and really starting to settle in. So thanks.
Well, thanks, Jordan, and thank you for kind of your back and forth with us. I think it's been just a great start having you kind of doing this and trying to catch up on some of these things, and for already bringing some stuff to light, and really appreciate all the hard work you're putting in. So, thank you. So now we're on to council and committee reports. Reminder, we have now joined these together. So when it's your turn, please be ready to talk about both items. We will start with Councilor Exner.
Okay, a couple things. I did attend the last Arts Commission meeting, and really excited for him. I've been through so many of these here on City Council and several on the Planning Commission, and you kind of get an idea that well-worn veterans is kind of what I think about when I think about the Planning Commission and the City Council. Exciting, brand new, and trying to feel their way through that is what I described the Art Commission. So they just elected their chair and vice chair, and trying to figure out how to go through the different pieces and parts of their schedule, and it's really exciting to see that happen. And they're really moving down the road on a number of different categories. And they're going to ask several of the departments to come in and give them an idea what has happened to the art in their particular area and what could be happening in their art. So I would expect that there'll be some requests for that as they go along. I really felt an energy when I heard that, probably hour or so of conversation. One of the things I communicated to the mayor and to city manager is I think as a council we should probably put something on the agenda to be able to talk about what we would like them to strategize for. What's the purpose? What can we give them that will give them maybe that first kickoff project? And a couple things come to mind, but I also think it might be well worth a workshop where we can hear from them and convey to them some of our ideas. They're a brand spanking new commission, and I think that'd be really helpful for them. I know that would be some feedback from them. Thought that would be great to do that. So that's the Arts Commission and my committee meetings. Council report. I love the tree lights that are going on down the street. I don't see Mike here tonight, but I'm wondering, we have trees on the east and the west end of Proctor that don't have lights, and I get the part that it's not electrified. But I'm wondering, if there's a way to do that, provide some electricity, because it's such a beautiful part of the city when you get into those lights, and it's almost seems like we ran out of batteries or something. I don't know what that would be, but it looks like there's some darkness on both sides. I noticed that the other day I was going through town, and very dark, beautiful lights, and then dark again. So, but trees on both sides. One other thing would be those of you that did not get on City Council, we have the Budget Committee coming up, and we're always looking for members in that. Great way to find out where you might fit in with in terms of the budget. Great way to understand lots of the parts and pieces of the council and the works that goes on here. And that's it for me.
Great, thank you. Councilor Lee.
Yes, I don't have a committee report because C4 didn't meet as they were intending to. But I am on the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, which is funded by lottery dollars. We give 7.5% of the lottery dollars to conservation projects. And we awarded the Clackamas Partnership $9 million, which will help with fishery benefits and water quality in the basin. The other thing I did was this weekend I looked at 1,100 pieces of legislation for a couple. I'm legislative chair of a couple different groups, so had to look at a lot. But I saw that there were 2 of the plastic bag bills out there. We had talked about that last year. So if I see anything exciting, I'll let you know.
Well, I think there's a lot exciting.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Councilor Hamlin.
No committee reports. Have Oregon Trail School District Board meeting coming up on February 11th. I know we don't have a lot of city staff here tonight, but for those that are, just want to thank them for doing the updates on the online staff reports. I noticed this month there are a lot of them that are up to date and have been recently submitted and updated, which we haven't been the most consistent on, so I really appreciate that, and it's super helpful to see it all out in writing as well on those staff reports. So if you can pass on that, thank you. I appreciate it.
Councilor Smollett.
Okay, January 9th, attended the Parks Board. They have a lot of passion. They're trying to do a lot of things. It was kind of exciting. It was my first meeting with them, and as we've talked, I think it's really important that we work on creating that master plan for them so that they have some definitive direction to move to. And then as a councilor report, I'm looking forward to going to City Day this week with you guys. And I think it'll be good. Other than that, I got nothing.
All right. Councilor Pearsall.
I don't have any committee reports to report on exactly. Have been doing some looking at the Economic Development Committee there and some chatting with the mayor as well as with David and Kelly a little bit as that kind of starts wrapping up and figuring some of those things out. On that note, was able to attend the chamber event, which was quite fun and amazing. And of course, it was always boring at Boring Brewery, but no, it was a great time to connect with some local business owners, and Lori was there as well. Stan was there, so I look forward to the next meet and greet in the evenings. There, that was I think a good thing to start doing here a while back. And thank you, Jordan, for meeting with me and for a lot longer than you probably anticipated. But exciting to have you on board and to start moving forward now that your feet are wet. I just want to thank the police department. The other night, I forget which night it was such a blur, but we had some quite extensive activity right outside my house. We shut the lights off and looked through the windows for a while. And we had the 3 Sandy police officers, a couple sheriff units, the state police. I think a few more sheriff units showed up as we watched a Dukes of Hazzard chase around the Seventh-day Adventist Church there and stop. And we just, but they were very proactive in making sure that they got the right person there. So I don't know what was going on there, but we had a nice show. We don't see that often in Sandy, but I'm glad that all the agencies were collaborating together for that. Sorry for the rest of the county because no one was around. But anyway, and then just looking forward to the LOC and spending some time down there and with the legislators and learning some stuff down there with them. But spending time with my fellow counselors as kind of not a retreat, but we're in these trenches together and figuring out what we can do to help bring more money and more commitment from the state and around that to Sandy. So look forward to getting this year kicked off.
Right. So I never have anything to talk about. So I'm going to have some housekeeping items and some items that as a council we kind of need to have a little bit of a chat about and some updates. And then the others, the first article when I announced I was going to run talked about transparency and making sure that we're talking about all the different things going on with the city, and we're kind of outbound in our communication. So this is my best effort in doing so. So first up is on the Economic Development Committee. We've had some conversations about having that and the formulation of that. We're looking at having a work session here over the next month and a half or so to really talk about the makeup of that committee and the direction of that and what we're really trying to accomplish there, because you don't just get a committee by snapping your fingers and it happening. So a lot of conversations and work needs to be done there. One of the committee assignments that I put on myself was for the Sandy Mountain Festival. Had a great meeting this last week with Steve Brown, who's on the committee there. And I have a coffee scheduled for this next Monday with their president, Martin Montgomery. We have some good efforts going there to restore the carnival and to bring it back this year. So that's far from being a done deal, but there's a lot of good stuff going on with the Mountain Festival. Now on to my mayor's report. So I mentioned this a little bit at the work session. So we have some meetings set up. We have City Day coming up Thursday the 24th. In the afternoon, we've set up some meetings with our state representative, Anna Williams, our state senator, Chuck Thompson, Representative Chris Gorsuch, who represents Mount Hood Community College and some of East Gresham, as well as Representative Christine Drazen, who represents Boring. So right now we have 4 of us there. It goes to the earlier question of 4 of us being kind of there talking about city business. So be thinking about, which prioritizing those and which ones you want to go to and be active in, and then let's try to, get only 3 of us there to 1 or 2 of them. One that I would definitely put on you, Councilor Exner, is the one with Representative Gorsuch, I think, with the Sandy watershed connection and some of our stuff going on with wastewater. I think it'd be very nice to have you participating in that meeting for sure. So.
Quick question,
yeah.
Janelle Brown or Brian or whatever the last name is.
Janelle Bynum?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, she's not on the list, and she's the one that
Happy Valley
does come
area
up to our edge of our
Yes.
Was she just busy or something, or?
No, you know, I didn't reach out. We only had the afternoon, but I ran into her at the Capitol last week during their swearing in. I certainly can reach out and see if we can get her on the agenda, for sure.
Her district does come up against be the west end of Sandy.
Yes,
And I was
right in
thinking-
Boring, like right,
Yeah.
there's a portion of Boring, so that's a good point.
Doesn't cover Sandy, but close, and so I thought
Yeah.
maybe she might have been just too busy or something
Yeah,
like that.
I'll reach out.
Yeah.
That's great. Any of those anyone specifically really wants to make sure to attend, or, okay?
I guess I would
Yeah.
like to kind of know more of what the schedule for that day is. They sent one out, but
Yeah.
not knowing their. But I've been to one before, and you get bussed from the
Right.
convention center up and then back, and there's a logistic issue.
So they have ongoing shuttles going. I believe it's every 30 minutes going from where we're meeting at the conference center to the Capitol. They've opened up our afternoon between 1:45 and 4:45 for meetings. That's when I try to schedule all of them. Representative Williams, though, could only meet at 1:15. So if that's towards the end of our lunch, I think we would have to break out a little early for that and jump on a shuttle to go meet with her, but obviously well worth it considering she represents us. But the rest, we have a morning session with the governor and different folks that are going to come and address us.
Okay.
But the afternoon is really for our meetings, and then there's a legislative reception in the evening, I think from like 5 to 7 or something. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be able to be there because I have a board meeting in the Dells, but I'll be going the following week, so I'll touch bases with some of you and see, so I can follow up with the same agenda.
Perfect. Great. Okay. So then next is, so there's been changes. An email went out today from Jordan on the 110% on the parks workshop. We're looking at them not coming forward and doing the consulting on that, but instead having a joint meeting with our parks committee. Was there dates on the calendar? Did we want to keep the dates that we had scheduled for 110% to come out? Or do we want to push that out a little bit? I'm looking for feedback from council as to when we would like to do that.
I already put it on my calendar. I mean, it was a 2-day thing, but we were just going to be doing it on the one day, and not they were coming back for this following day with the parks, I believe. So that would be the Saturday.
And I believe that committee they're kind of primed and ready to meet with us. So Jordan, what was it looking like as far as what everybody was ready to do?
So February 9th, that's that Saturday, was that date for the city council to do that workshop. And so that would be one option, is to convert that into a joint meeting with the Parks Board to talk about the Parks Master Plan process, schedule moving forward, and sort of what that looks like in terms of doing that Parks and Trail Master Plan, and how the council and board work together in accomplishing that. So that, that day's open. I think originally it was 9 to 2 p.m. was what we had scheduled for the workshop. It is a Saturday. I think the Parks Board was informed about the workshop already, so they had Sunday on their calendar. So I'm not sure how many of them would be available on a Saturday morning or afternoon. So I thought it was good for the mayor to kind of propose, does that still work for the council, and we can offer that to the Parks Board. It doesn't seem like there's good attendance. We can look at other dates, but I know this is a priority for the council, but it's also a priority for the Parks Board, and they're eager to get some sort of clarity and direction on moving forward with the master plan.
So what are thoughts on Sunday versus Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday would work better.
Either day.
Saturday, yeah.
Saturday?
Okay.
So what was it, Saturday from, did you mention 1 to 4, or what was it?
I mean, it could be a morning or afternoon. I was thinking 9 to noon. That's half the time that we had allotted before, and so in between breakfast and lunch, and people can go about their day and weekend.
All right, consensus for that?
What day was that again?
February 9th, it's a Saturday, from 9 to noon. Do you have a?
Nope, that's fine.
Should be on our calendars already from before. So.
Okay. Sandy Community Campus Project. So at our retreat, we had talked about the swimming pool, the aquatic center, and what we were going to do there. And kind of the consensus is that we were all kind of awaiting this report to come back from OPSIS. And that depending on that report and valuation that they were going to present to us, we were going to kind of make decisions on, the future of both the aquatic center
and partially the community campus and funding mechanisms for that. One thing, you know, with kind of Jordan getting his feet wet and jumping in and figuring out how this all works is we are not, there's no oncoming report coming from OPSIS. So, you know, we left that retreat thinking that we had a future report coming. They have delivered their deliverables. And so there is, there's more that we can ask for, but we would be incurring an additional expense of about $70,000 to get that report. 70,000. So here's the conversation between me as a new mayor and a new city manager is you know, I've been around and kind of watching the meetings and sitting in here. But there's a little bit of a question that we had for council, which is, you know, there is a report that was put together, and we just don't have a good feel for if that report has kind of been added, and we have new counselors as well, right? Has that report really been kind of communicated to council, and what's all in that report? Because what has been, I don't mean to leave council with the impression that we don't have good stuff. We have a lot of good information that was collected, and it's a lot of stuff that can help us guide our decisions. But I just wanted to make sure it was clear, because it was kind of left hanging out there that maybe we had some more deliverables, and we don't. Jordan, do you mind kind of just broadly kind of telling us what we'd be receiving in a report by bringing the OPSIS consultants out to do a presentation for us?
Yeah, so I've had a couple conversations with the architect, and then we'll have another one tomorrow. They were under the direction to work on the next basically deliverable, which would be the schematic design for phase 1 for the aquatic center. I do have a report from them, which is kind of the it's basically all the reports combined, that all the work that's been done by OPSIS and their sub-consultants over the last year. There's a lot of good information in there. I'm just not sure if the council has had sort of a comprehensive look at this in a presentation by the architect. I think probably given the date of the report in October, we were in election season and sort of in the transition. So I think just from your conversation at the retreat and talking with staff and talking with the architect, might be a good opportunity just to start there, to do an overview of what the community campus plan was and what the architect has done to date, because there's a market study, there's the summary of all the outreach and focus groups that the council and the community was a part of. There's the needs assessment and the building assessment. I've had a lot of questions about, can we use the middle school? What is the condition of the pool? Things like that. And so if we can have sort of a public meeting, a forum, a workshop about all those issues, I think it will help us moving forward just to start clean, given the newness of some of the folks here, to start clean and move forward with our eyes wide open on what direction we want to take. And at the same time, we can start having those preliminary discussions about where do you want us to go in terms of exploring the long term. Conversations about a bond, conversations about exploring partnerships and reaching out to other groups to help us realize this vision for that property.
So I'm going to say a comment, and I'm going to kind of open up for any chatter that we want to have on this. I view this as kind of a two-prong approach. One is to bring back in the OPSIS consultants and receive kind of a report on work to date that's been done, and get a good vision of what is in this report and what has been delivered to date. And then you heard me allude to everybody during their interviews and upcoming work session. I believe that after we receive that information, we deserve it to both work already rendered as well as this project and the magnitude of it, to schedule a work session, perhaps a half-a-day work session, where we come together after receiving the report and the information and really dedicate some good time to kind of talking amongst each other and the public and everyone to really start to develop the next steps of our approach and plan and vision for the community campus. So that's kind of the way I'm thinking through it, and I'm open for discussion from council on that at this point. Yeah.
I agree. I think it would be good. You will have at least 3 individuals on here that wasn't part of the council on there. And then the new city manager who's trying to get, as you put in, getting his feet wet, jumping in. the pool.
Yep.
But
That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's very wise to do that. My one question is when they come out here to do that, what will they be charging to do that service? You know, because I'm assuming they're not doing it for free. I mean, what an hourly rate to present and that type of thing. And I'm not scared away from it yet. You haven't told me what the number is, but what I think it's very wise to do that. So
I believe if they haven't been out to do a council presentation, it's in their existing contract that
they did.
We've had. They have been out. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know they've done the focus groups and stuff. I'm guessing it's probably a few $1,000s, depending on the time and how much material they have to, prepare, presentation and all that. I think it's worth it, just given I don't have the background.
Sure.
I don't have staff that has the in-depth background, given that we were paying consultants to do a lot of the heavy lift on this work. So.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking review the report, have some time together, then OPSIS. Or OPSIS at the start of maybe a half-day workshop.
Right, and it's kind of, have OPSIS at the first half, and then maybe we have a next step we want to do with them. Maybe we don't, but let's just see kind of where we're at after the report comes back, and then we have time to kind of gather as a group. Does that sound like a good plan?
Just one statement, I guess, and I'm fairly familiar with the plan, and I understand where we are, and I'm glad that we're going to do something to get everybody up to speed again, and probably myself in some areas. I have to say, though, that the plan itself looked like it was very difficult to implement from my viewpoint. The dollar figure was a little bit higher than I would anticipate us being able to afford. I thought there were several other alternatives that we should probably talk about, so I think there is a conversation we want to do. I would be willing to spend a couple thousand, 3,000 or whatever it takes to get them here and refresh us, get us up to speed, and then we can use that as a stepping off point.
And there's portions we can take from that, just like pool-related items and things
we
like
can
that.
click and pull and,
Okay. All right, next item, just real quickly, met with David Breams. We talked about it already, the mining park, and let's really kind of, though, I'd like to see a proactive approach with our police department and stuff to kind of look at, and Public Works, and looking into some of those possible solutions. There is a ribbon cutting this Friday at the new Brady's Brats and Burgers at the old Trout Pub location. It's at 11 a.m. And we'll be there. I'll be there. I've invited different counselors. Love to have you there. We're very excited about that project. One, because it's going to be a great new establishment here in town that meets a lot of our council goals. But also they were part of our tenant improvement program here at the city, where they received a grant for upgrades and stuff to their facility to make it happen. When you think about what we just did with our council policies, it's kind of what we're talking about there. It's really proactively trying to make things happen here in Sandy. Friday as well in the evening at the Vista Resource Fair. Anybody have good pronunciation of Spanish? All right, it's the Noche del I'm not going to try. It's this Friday, January 25th at the Vista. You got this?
Noche de Comida y Comunidad this Friday.
Where were you? That was great. That starts at 6 p.m. Just wanted to thank our assistant librarian, Katie Murphy, who showed leadership in really kind of organizing that. The Action Center, Sandy Helping Hands, and a bunch of nonprofits are going to be involved in that. It's an important resource for our community.
I want John to translate that now.
Yeah, no, that was pretty
I'd like to have
great.
somebody that knows Spanish that really said that or something else.
I had 4 years, so
Yeah.
it's pretty close.
We just re-engaged with Greater Portland Inc., which is an organization to help incentivize and give us kind of lessons and stuff, and exactly what we're talking about with the Economic Development Committee. I'd like to see Councilor Peetzel kind of join in on some of that, as well as David Snyder. So we had an excellent meeting. Jordan, Mike Walker, and I met with Dan Meir with Senator Merkley's office this last week, talking to him about possible federal funding for this wastewater treatment plant that's coming up, and took him for a tour around town. Had some good dialogue back and forth with Senator Wyden and Congressman Blumenauer as well. Congressman Blumenauer might actually be coming out personally to meet with us, so I'll kind of rope some of you in and stuff if you'd like to join in on that meeting. We'd love to have you guys there. Okay. tourism grant. So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this, but the grant is coming up here in February. And so if we want to kind of invoke some council priorities in that tourism grant, we got to get after it a little bit. This is one of those, you know, as a council, we give kind of a vision direction to staff and they kind of run with it. We've talked a little bit about at our council, the goal setting retreat, kind of winter tourism and getting some of that kick-started and taken off. Now this is only a $25,000 grant, so it's not gonna like really like start it, but we can kind of do some different things with it. I'd like to ask staff to start looking at possibly doing some heated tents and stuff in Centennial Plaza. And I'm thinking kind of it's a couple phase approach on this. Is we've talked about some of the things we can do in Meinig Park as far as, you know, Christmas lights and stuff during the holidays. That's a longer term plan. Kind of piggybacking off of the conversation we had when David and Kelly did a presentation on the awnings and stuff. That helps out in the summer, right? But it's nice in the summer. It's really in the winter months and stuff, and these can also be used if it rains during the mountain festival. You know, if the mountain festival big rainstorm comes in like it did a couple years ago, it kind of wiped out the music fair and feast a little bit that was going on. So not making a decision on that, but I'm looking to see if we can give a little direction to staff to maybe research the cost and the options for that we can maybe take a step forward and seeing if we want to apply for some of these tourism dollars. Yeah.
So I had a question. Is this the one that's being advertised on Facebook by the city?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I saw that and I thought it was kind of weird that we were advertising something we're potentially going after.
So I had this. So I had the same concerns in the past practices, which don't always have to lead to future practices, is that we have put it out to the community and stuff, and then a lot of the times we don't get much feedback and willingness to participate, and then we kind of start divvying out some small projects and stuff for different groups. From our conversations one-on-one as counselors, it seems like there's been more of a willingness to try to go big or go home, and to maximize. If we're going to get $25,000 instead of dribbling out $2,000 here, $5,000 there, let's do some kind of nice big gesture that can really kind of start moving the needle for us. So this was kind of my attempt as a kind of a first step into this to kind of move into that direction. Yeah.
Colin,
yes.
We have a brand new arts council that has a lot to do with bringing art in, and I get the impression that the way we had conversation about this cover of the plaza was almost as much as it was an art and the idea in that arena as it was tourism. Art brings in tourism. I wonder if this might be some of that discussion. We could think about giving that brand new art commission a chance to evaluate, propose, come back to us, here's some proposals. Might be a thing to think about. It might be a bit too soon for them to get that kind of organized, but certainly I want to put that on the table to think about and see where we stand.
So I was just gonna say, like year 2 maybe, and like future stuff. The only problem is this February date.
I know it's right on our tail.
Yeah,
Getting there.
yeah, that's kind of what's getting us.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's maybe something out there that serves both purposes. Provides a heating source in the wintertime and then a cooling source in the summertime. So I think maybe looking into that option if there's something out there that would suffice in both avenues.
Jordan, do you think it sounds like there's consensus here to look at not just mine, but also some other alternatives as well. Could we, at our next meeting, maybe get a presentation from David or somebody on some different options for us? Because, you know, it's kind of right around the corner. We'd have to almost supply direction and then apply for that grant if we wanted to do it.
So do you want direction on projects that would be eligible, that would be city-led, or on this specific tent research?
Well, I mean, for me, it's the specific tent research. If I'm being honest, because we're at a point here where we've got to find out our different options there, and if we want to move forward with that prior to February, and we have one more meeting here in January to be able to do that. I hate springing this on council. This is not my MO.
If there's some pressing things out there that would be viable to fit into that same category, not necessarily like covering, but if there's some other things out there that staff think would meet that criteria,
bring it.
Bring it. Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have another meeting in January.
No, we have
February 4th.
February 4th.
Okay,
So just to let you know, if you're counting on that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea that we try to rally some of these things together and get some cohesiveness amongst the kind of a direction we're going. And you know, maybe a little soon for the art, but it doesn't mean we can't apply for something like that. So I think, you know, both ideas are good ideas. And then, but you know, some direction or cost or whatever coming back would be nice to know ahead of time, so that we can apply for something like that, or something else that might be has some synergy with that. That can be, you know, that goes along with it, not just the tent, like the heating structures or a sound system or whatever it may be. So.
And this final comment on this is in the future, I'd like to see these kind of being generated in that economic development and the arts commission, right? And then we're more of a kind of a council advisory role. We're just kind of in a weird timeline as to where those two organizations are at this point. Councilor Lee.
Am I wrong in recalling that that tent project was over 30,000? Are we thinking we might contribute if we got a grant?
So part of that grant said, you know, is there other funds? So those are the kinds of we got to get a better grasp on what we're doing with urban renewal, right? And where that district is and the funds and that. But that's the kind of project. Well, you think about where this generated. That was an urban renewal meeting that was presented and generated at. So we could kind of match those projects up together. The one area I'm a little frustrated, I guess, if I'm just going to be forthright, is in that meeting, this grant was mentioned. And when we mention those kinds of things, we need to be hearing back some results from that. And this grant, you know, this was a meeting from 3 months ago. We should have some options before us at this point, if I'm being quite honest.
So in terms of that, I know the Art Council, I hate to just beat the bush again, but if we're not going to use them as part of that planning, I would suggest that we at least incorporate them into observing and watching. I think they'd really love to be able to do these kinds of projects. They just are really so green that I think that it would be best for us to kind of move forward as fast as possible and at least have them at least understand how we're doing things and see kind of what our directions are. I think they would help that a lot, and just be able to give them sort of a understanding of the process.
Great. Adventist Health, we have a meeting, Jordan, myself, and Dave Snyder is going to be meeting next Wednesday morning with David Russell, the president of Adventist Health, Doreen Brower, who's a regional vice president, physician service executive, and Randy White, I'm not sure his role. We have it's been a council goal of ours, obviously, to try to get a 24-hour urgent care in those facilities. This is not really the point of that meeting, but this is to kind of start a conversation about where we want to go as a city and information forward, and receive information from them as an important community partners of ours as to where they're at. Great. Mentioned City Day. ODOT's here February 12th. We had a work session getting ready for that. It's an important meeting. Everybody mentioned traffic. It's their #1 issue facing our community. That's going to be a big part in that. We're hosting Sandy Area Chamber of Commerce Morning Perk here in Council Chambers, February 6th from 7:30 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. So it tends to go till 9. It's our local business leaders' opportunity to meet the new mayor and the new city manager. And thank you, Chris, and thank you to Councilor Exner for kind of bringing that up and pushing that forward for us to do. We're looking forward to hosting that right here. So you know, there is a new Sandy Breakfast Club that is starting. It's the last Friday of every month. That will be this coming Friday. It's their first meeting. It's at 8 a.m. They're meeting at Sandy Family Restaurant's back room. And the idea behind this organization is for local business leaders to meet and have a nonprofit organization here in town come and do a presentation to them so that they can collaborate together. And you know, where we can hear some of the needs going on in the community, and the local business leaders can kind of step up and help out in the ways that they can.
What time in the morning was
So it starts at 8 a.m.
This Friday?
This Friday's the first one. It's going to be the last Friday every month.
Sandy Family?
Sandy Family Restaurant. And the first up this Friday is Michelle Hellstab with Sandy Helping Hands is conducting the presentation for that. Okay. We've had ongoing conversations with Mark Benson, who's an investor here in the community and had some different projects. We're going to have a conference call with him tomorrow, and really the focus of that
It's just how we can improve communication between, you know, our city and our city staff and some of the investment projects that he's looking to have. Speaking of Mr. Benson, had coffee this morning with his business partner, exact same point to the meetings, trying to increase communication. And then, we'll get towards the end here, guys, I promise. Phone conversation today with John Paletti Sr. So he is the owner of the property at 39150 Pioneer Boulevard. It's the neat blue old Studebaker building that has been vacant for several years now and has some different items going on with it. After that conversation, you know, he's had some back and forth with our planning department and well, quite frankly, conversations amongst council on some areas that facility needs to improve and kind of get up to date. It's looking at being condemned right now for a lot of good reasons. There's just items going on there. After talking to him, though, I do want to communicate to council that I think there's an opportunity for his long-term goals with that building could possibly match up with some of the goals that are laid out into our council goals as far as economic development and stuff. So we're going to want to kind of have our planning department really looking at what we're doing there in conversation and maybe start looking to provide an update to council on that in the next few months. Okay.
There's a lot of history in that building.
Yes, there is.
But not just with the building, but with the owner as well and several council members and downtown, yeah.
Yep. And then finally, the planning commission appointment process. You know, we had decided to postpone that, and Jordan wanted to kind of get a report for us as to when we might be seeing candidates for that and what the process is for our appointment on planning commission.
Yeah, so we've had sort of an internal debate on how that process worked. I think there was some confusion and lack of clarity on what the council rule and procedure was for appointments when there was an advisory board member appointed, and the advisory board members are essentially sort of like alternates, but at that level, then the board chair and the staff member in charge does the I guess the recommendation to the city council if we have an existing advisory board member that can fill a spot. I'm getting the sense from my conversation with council and the mayor that what we want to do with this position is put it back out for advertisement to fill a vacancy, and through basically in a process that would include applications and then interviews of each candidate. And then at that point, the mayor would make a recommendation for the council to approve a new member for the planning commission. So we would need to advertise, get the word out about vacancy. Probably do it at the same time that we need to fill vacancies for other boards and commissions, such as our budget committee. It's an important role to fill for this city. So you know, we would want somebody in there as soon as possible.
Yes.
But I haven't been able to dive too deep into your council rules, where you might want to decide at some point, maybe we can do this at a workshop, who sits on the interview committee. You probably want the board chair and then maybe a couple of city councilors at the same time, maybe the mayor. And then you know, you do basically an interview with questions, and like we did tonight, and then bring that back at a following council meeting for appointment. So that's where we're at with that. So we'll probably start advertising that shortly, unless the council wants to. Okay.
Nope, I think that's right.
Good job.
Thank you. Yep. Final promise. We're having reached out to the Lundeen and the Skipper family. We are targeting a breakfast meeting with those two families, with Jordan and with Mike Walker and Kelly from planning, to really kind of just talk about priorities that the families have with their, you know, their properties that are on the west side, right, the west side of town here, and just, you know, putting it out there that meeting's taking place, and the city's not going in to present anything, and they're not coming in to present anything to us or to go through any past battles or anything. We're just trying to do an introduction of our new mayor and city manager, and see if maybe we can align some of our priorities there. So, and with that, next up would be staff updates. Any more staff updates?
No, you know, because there's such a a focus on the vacancies tonight.
Yep.
You know, I said staff could take this one off.
Mhm.
That would be a good night to do that, so.
How's Ernie doing?
Good, yeah. I heard from him this, today. He's enjoying it.
Yeah. I saw the updates come in. Thank you for that. We love reading those and seeing kind of what's going on. So with that, long meeting, but made it out by 10. I didn't know if we were going to do that or not. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Here's these things too, by the way.
How do you want to do this? You want us to initial these
Oh,
as well?
Yeah, you should put your name on these as well.
I almost should have done this
Don't
before.
worry,
I don't know
guys.
if I can
We're
recognize
not
my
be that
numbers.
long every time.
Fine, it's good information. It's good information.
If you can't